Welcome. I'm E.G. Marshall. Murder, we are told, will out. As will, I believe, truth. Which is to say that most murderers, though not all, are eventually exposed and made to pay for what is considered certainly the most heinous crimes of all, the taking of another's life. Such was the case with the charming, debonair, and totally amoral Greg Manchester, who felt sure he had committed the perfect murder, only to discover...
You're arresting me for murder? Lieutenant, you can't be serious.
I'm very serious, Mr. Manchester.
But on what grounds? Yes, I shot and killed my wife, but it was an accident.
No accident, Mr. Manchester. Cold-blooded murder. And we can prove it.
Well, how can you prove murder when there was no murder? It was an accident, I tell you. I only wish to heaven there'd been a witness to prove what I say.
There was a witness, Greg. A witness who can prove it was murder.
Who, Sandy? Tell me who.
The corpse, Greg. The corpse.
Our mystery drama, The Eye of Death, was written especially for the Mystery Theater by George Lothar and stars Joan Hackett. It is sponsored in part by Sign-Off, the sinus medicines, and Anheuser-Busch Incorporated, brewers of Budweiser. I'll be back shortly with Act One. When it comes to murder, it sometimes seems to me that the cleverer a murderer, the more certain he is to be caught. For as the annals of crime reveal, he tends to outsmart himself. Dr. Crippen, Landru, George Joseph Smith, to mention but a few, all without exception flattered themselves on having committed perfect crimes, when in truth they had trapped themselves by overlooking one single minor little detail, as did a certain gentleman named Gregory Manchester. Listen.
Murder? You are accusing me, Sandy, of planning to murder your mother? Is that what you said?
Don't twist my words, Greg. I said it wouldn't surprise me if she had a fatal accident and died suddenly.
Oh, Sandy, don't even speak of such things. Just the thought makes my heart skip a beat.
I'm sorry, Rose. How is your heart?
Oh, same. Mother thinks I ought to see another doctor.
Sandy, I'm sorry you feel about me as you do. I hoped when I married your mother that you'd become as much my friend as your sister has. Why, if you could have heard me talking about you at my club, how proud I was going to be to have the famous photographer, Sandy Oakes, for a stepdaughter. Can't we be friends, Sandy?
Friends? Sorry, Greg, but your charm is wasted on me. You charmed my mother into marrying you, charmed her into turning over all of her money to you, charmed her into taking out a $100,000 life policy with you as a beneficiary,
Well,
but...
now, my dear, why not? After all, Sandy, I am her husband.
And a fast worker. Married less than a month. You certainly haven't wasted any time getting this marriage to pay off for you.
Oh, now you're accusing me of marrying your mother for her money. Is that it, my dear?
You can believe it.
Oh, now, Sandy.
Rose, it's true, and I'm telling you straight out. This clothes horse with his blonde hair and his Sir Walter Raleigh manners is nothing more than a sharp operator. A con artist. And that's what I've come here to tell my mother, and I will tell her if she ever gets out of that bath and comes down here.
Sandy, you're all upset.
Upset? I'm steaming, and I've been steaming ever since I heard about this new life insurance policy. When Mother phoned and said that she'd just taken out a $100,000 policy with dear Greggy as a beneficiary, I could have... Oh, what is that?
What? Oh, it's a stain on the ceiling. It's a water stain.
The bathroom is just above us here.
Oh, now, don't tell me the tub's overflowed.
What?
If your mother's had another of her fainting spells in the bath, you better get up there. Come on.
What fainting spells? Mother's never had a fainting spell in her
Oh, no,
life.
you're wrong there, Sandy. She never told you, but she's had a number of them. Sudden blackouts since your father died. The shock of his death, I don't know. And she's had two since we married a month ago. God grant she hasn't had another. Not while taking it. Oh, here we are. Oh, no.
Mother! He killed her, Joe. He killed her.
Now, sweetheart,
Joe, he did. He drowned her in that tub. All of that talk about sudden fainting spells, blackouts. No way, Joe, no way.
Now, look, my dear, lovable bride-to-be, I don't like Gregory Manchester any more than you do, and I couldn't agree more that he's the phony you claim he is, but you're no fool, Sandy. A camera nut, maybe, with that camera of yours always slung around your neck, but you...
Joe, photography is my business, and I don't know how many pictures I'd have missed if I didn't keep this high-powered Instamat ready at all times, and really, I don't know why it bothers you.
Well, it's nothing. Oh, excuse me. Yes? Yes, have them come right in. Manchester and your sister.
I'm going to try to get Rose to move in with me now that Mother's gone.
Come in, Rose. Mr. Manchester.
Thank you. Hello, Sandy.
Hello. How are you feeling, Rose?
Oh, all right.
I want to talk with you privately after the reading of Mother's will.
What about, Sandy?
Later, dear.
Well, we're all here, so I'll get started. I, Geraldine Oakes Manchester, a resident of the city of...
Wait a minute, Joe.
Yes?
Geraldine Oakes Manchester?
Your mother made a new will after she married Mr. Manchester, didn't she tell you?
No,
Well, she told me she was going to.
she didn't. I'm sure I know why.
Another slap at me, Sandy. Are you implying I changed her mind about telling you?
If the shoe fits, Greg.
Now, hold it, please. We're here for the reading of a will, and I suggest we get on with it. I, Geraldine Oakes Manchester, a resident of this city... Lastly, I hereby revoke all former wills and codicils to wills heretofore by me made. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand and seal this 10th day of October, signed Geraldine Oakes Manchester, and witnessed, etc., etc., etc. Well, Mr. Manchester, you've inherited quite a fortune.
Plus $100,000 in insurance. While Rose gets nothing. Nor do I.
Well, as your mother stated in her will, Sandy, she trusted me. Implicitly trusted me to see that Rose was well cared for. And you?
I don't need Mother's money, but Rose...
Oh, Sandy, you can trust Greg. Mother did. I do.
I know you do, Rose. You trust everyone. You always have.
Possibly because she hasn't let the world make her as cynical as it has made you.
Oh, now, just a minute, Mr. Manchester.
I can take care of myself, Joe. More important, I can take care of Rose, and I mean to.
But, Sandy, I'm going to be all right. Greg will...
Leave you to starve if I know Greg, but he isn't going to because I'm not going to let him. I'm going to break this will.
Sandy...
I mean it, Joe. He conned Mother and he fleeced her. Well, you're not going to get away with it, Greg. I'll break this will if it's the last thing that I do.
And, may I ask exactly how, my dear?
By proving you murdered my mother and meant to murder her from the start.
Have some more shrimp creole, Florence?
Oh, Greg, darling, I couldn't. I simply couldn't. You know I'm on a diet.
Oh, nonsense. This is no time to stay on a diet. In the first place, it's Mardi Gras week. In the second, I brought you to the finest restaurant in New Orleans.
Oh, you dear, delightful man.
And in the third place, why anyone with your figure feels the need to diet, that baffles me utterly.
Oh, you are a dear and delightful man. Greg Manchester, you are almost as... No, I'll say it. You are as dear and delightful as my late husband. Oh, Greg, I'm so glad we met. So glad.
Well, so am I, Florence. You know, only a week ago, I was the loneliest man on earth.
Oh.
Lonely in the way only the bereaved can be lonely. Even though it's months since Geraldine passed on, I thought I would never get over her loss. And then... Well, then, my dearest... You don't mind if I call you my dearest?
Of course not.
Well, I met you, and life became worth living again.
Oh, Greg, do you know that's exactly the way I felt? Feel?
I thought as much. We've known each other only a week, my dear, but what a week it has been.
Oh, yes.
And for my part, Florence, You won't be offended?
No.
Well, for my part, you're the woman I've been looking for since my own dear Geraldine passed on.
Oh.
The woman I felt sure I would never find.
Oh, Greg. Greg, you dear man.
Then you're not offended.
Offended?
It wouldn't be if I... Well,
If you what, darling?
If I asked you to become my wife.
Oh.
Oh, dear, I have offended you.
No. Oh, you've made me so happy. I think I'm going to cry. In fact, I know I am. Greg, what? Is something wrong?
No. But excuse me a moment, Florence. I'll be right back. Well, Sandy Oaks, girl photographer, camera and all.
Greg Manchester, con artist and murderer. Next victim and all.
What are you doing in New Orleans?
Mardi Gras week. I'm covering it. For Cosmopolite.
You're lying. You found out I was living in New Orleans. You followed me here.
Care to see my press credentials?
If Cosmopolite sent you, you asked for the assignment.
Oh, how right you are.
Now you listen to me. Any more trouble from you, and I'll make you know what trouble really is.
Trouble? What makes you think I'm out to give you trouble, Greg?
Because you followed me here, because I suddenly spotted you snapping a picture of me and Mrs. Chapman.
I took more than one before you noticed me, Greg. They may come in handy.
I don't see how.
Well, then, look over there, Greg. See that sign?
The one that reads Mardi Gras Week?
Exactly. From that angle, I caught not only you and Mrs. Chapman, but that sign hanging behind you on the wall.
So what?
The time element, Greg, and the place. I can hear a district attorney saying to you at your trial for murder, quote, "You did know the widow, Mrs. Florence Chapman, as early as Mardi Gras week, didn't you? In New Orleans, wasn't it?" Unquote.
My murder trial.
You are going to kill her, aren't you? For her money? After you marry her? Tell me, does she have any children you can leave penniless as you did my sister Rose?
She went to live with you. You're very successful, plenty of dough. You take care of her.
I am. I'm also going to take care of you.
Now, Sandy, I warn you.
Cool it, con man. I am not my mother that you're talking to now, nor my sister Rose, or that lovely victim of yours over there. A photographer gets around. You think you're the cleverest thing that ever happened. You are. But, Buster, it's your cleverness that's going to put you behind bars, because somewhere, somehow, you're going to think you're so clever that you'll make one little mistake, one fatal little mistake, and when you do, I'm going to be there.
Be smart, eh? Get out of my life and stay out of my...
Excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt, but, Greg, dear, won't you introduce me to that very attractive friend here? Well, dearest?
Yes, of course. Sandy Oaks, my stepdaughter.
Oh, you're not the daughter of that poor woman who
drowned accidentally. Yes, Mrs. Chapman, I am.
You know my... Oh, Greg told you.
No, I've been watching you and Mr. Manchester ever since he met you a week ago.
Watching? Greg, darling, what does she mean?
Oh, never mind, Florence. She's a troublemaker. She tried to stop me from marrying her mother.
I tried to stop you from murdering my mother.
Oh, gracious, such talk. You're in a restaurant.
Mrs. Chapman, let me give you a tip. A tip that will save your life. Say goodbye right now to this charming, well-dressed murderer. Say goodbye and go on living.
Well, Greg, I believe you're right. This girl, well, I don't know what she is, but she is. I'm sorry I came over. I'll wait for you at our table.
Yes, of course, Florence. Well, do you see?
She's as naive and as trusting as my mother. And my sister. Or others you've murdered.
Oh, so it's others now. Look, Sandy, you said I'm clever. Well, I am clever. A hell of a lot cleverer than you are, doll. And I guess the only way to get you off my neck is to prove it.
And just how will you do that?
The only way I know. Murder.
Don't get me all choked up. I know you. I'm ready for anything you try. Murder me? You don't have much of a chance, Mr. Manchester.
Oh, murder you. No, not you.
Who then?
Your sister Rose, whom you love so much. Who else?
Inevitably, it had to come to this. The challenge. The squaring off. The gauntlet flung down between a cold-blooded murderer and a self-sufficient girl like Sandy Oakes, who's been around. Is she right? Will Greg Manchester make that one fatal mistake she says he will? Perhaps we'll find out when I return for Act 2. Much has been written on the psychology of murder and murderers. And although experts disagree, when have experts ever done anything else, there seems little question that the common motive for murder is personal gain. In any case, assuredly, that's what it is with Greg Manchester, who, you might say, marries for murder. But now Sandy Oakes, veteran freelance photographer, has set out to prove that Manchester murdered her mother, even as Manchester threatens that if she doesn't leave him alone, he will kill her invalid sister, Rose.
Sandy, your mother drowned in her bath after suffering a blackout.
My mother never had a blackout, a fainting spell in her life. Manchester spread that story to cover himself.
Yeah, but you can't prove it. And until you can, I'm warning you, drop it.
I'm not afraid of a suit for libel or slander, if that's what you mean.
What I mean is, I'm afraid for your life, if what you say is true.
It's Rose's life I'm worried about. If anything happened to me, she'd be alone and penniless.
You don't ever have to worry about Rose while I'm around. You know that.
Of course not. But, good Lord, I didn't realize it was this late. I've got to rush.
What? Just when I was about to invite you to lunch?
I'm sorry, darling, but I'm due at the Metropolitan Photographic Exhibit in half an hour. I promised to advise the committee on how to hang the prize exhibits.
Oh, including one of yours. Which reminds me, I owe you an apology.
An apology because I won a prize?
Well, I'm always kidding you about carrying that fancy camera of yours, but if you hadn't had it with you and shot from the hip that day, you'd never have caught that picture of an old man being mugged.
And the muggers. Oh, the cops nail them because of what I photographed. Which reminds me, I've got to see Lieutenant McCoy at headquarters after the photo exhibit.
What for?
The information I dug up in New Orleans about Greg Manchester. Now, it may not mean anything to you, darling, but I'm hoping it will mean plenty to Lieutenant McCoy.
It means nothing to me, Sandy, nothing at all.
But, Mac...
Sandy, I checked it out. Yeah, sure, Manchester was married before he met your mother. And sure, his wife died of an overdose of sleeping pills, but the coroner's verdict was death by accident.
Oh, Mac, you put me away. You really do.
I don't get you.
His wife dies of an overdose of sleeping pills, and he inherits over $50,000. He marries my mother. She dies by drowning. He inherits every cent she has, plus an insurance of $100,000, taken out less than a month before. 2 deaths, 2 so-called accidents, and Greg Manchester hits the financial jackpot. That doesn't strike you as fishy?
Oh, yes, but
Now he's going to marry this other wealthy widow, Florence Chapman, less than 3 months after my mother dies.
Sandy...
Oh, and he threatens to kill my sister Rose if I don't lay off. And you sit there and you tell me that you don't think that Manchester is a cold-blooded murderer.
No, I didn't say that. I said he's clean, Sandy. As a cop, I got to play it by the book, the rules of evidence. Maybe Manchester did kill your mother and his previous wife, but I haven't got a shred of evidence to prove he did, and neither of you. Well, have you?
No, but I'm going to get it. Sooner or later, Manchester is going to make one slip. One little slip, and I'm going to be there when he does.
Taking pictures of him as he does, I'll bet.
It isn't funny, Mac.
No, I'm just cracking wise about you and your trusty companion, that camera.
Laugh. But it caught you a couple of muggers, and Mac, it may catch me a murderer. There's a bench, Rose. Want to sit for a while?
Oh, no, Sandy, no. I'm too excited to sit still.
You're too excited, period.
Oh, I'll be all right. Oh, it's such a thrill for me just to get out of that apartment. But on top of that, these wonderful pictures. Holzman, Eisenstadt, Kepler, and you.
That's what I call really sisterly love. Putting me in that class.
Oh, you won a first prize.
Yes, but in photojournalism, and there's nothing arty about my stuff.
A first prize is a first prize, and I'm not going to argue.
Rose?
Oh, Sandy, maybe I'd better sit down for a minute or two.
Yes, right there. How bad is it?
It's not bad. Sandy, would you open my bag and take out the bottle of nitro pills?
Yeah, just a sec. Here, wait a moment now. Here we are. Here. Stay here. I'll get you a cup of water. Excuse me, please. Excuse me. I just want to get through to the water cooler.
We're here. Let me help you.
Thank you. You.
Yes, me.
What are you doing here, Greg?
Mrs. Manchester wanted to see the exhibit.
She married you then?
And I wanted to see you. Figured you'd be here, so
I've got no time for you now. I've got to get a cup of water for my sister.
Well, here's the cup. There's the water. I want a word with you, Sandy, about...
Would you get out of my way? Excuse me, please. Excuse me. Rose, dear. Here you are.
Oh, thank you, Sandy. Thank you.
Are you better?
Yes. Much.
I think that we'd better go.
Sandy, I haven't seen everything yet.
Your heart.
Oh, drat my heart. My first day out of the apartment in weeks. I'm going to make the most of it. I'm going to see everything there is to see. Oh, look who's here.
Hello, Rose.
How are you, Greg?
Never better. You?
Pretty well. Thank you.
I meant to call on you when I got back from New Orleans, but I felt your sister wouldn't approve.
You're right, Greg. Her sister wouldn't.
Now you too.
It's all right, Rose. All right. Sandy and I aren't going to have a scene. I only want to say hello. So, if you'll excuse me, I'll rejoin my wife. Goodbye, Rose. Goodbye, Sandy. Oh, give my regards to Lieutenant McCoy next time you see him, will you?
Lieutenant McCoy?
The police lieutenant you went to see this morning. About a certain little matter.
How do you know that I want to see McCoy? And what I want to see him about?
Oh, does it matter? I know. I think it was very foolish of you, Sandy.
Do you?
Oh, yes, very. In fact, as I intimated to you in New Orleans, it could even be dangerous. Deadly dangerous. Not for you. Not immediately for you. Well, goodbye for now.
Sandy, what was that all about?
Nothing, Rose. Nothing.
What did Greg mean? It could be deadly dangerous.
It's nothing for you to worry about, Rose.
Well, all right, if you say so. Funny, though.
What?
I'm worried somehow. Suddenly, I'm very worried. Joe. Oh, nice to see you. Come in.
How are you, Rose?
Oh, I'm fine.
Now, no fibs to your brother-in-law-to-be.
What?
I talked to Sandy on the phone. She said your heart gave you a little trouble at the photography exhibition this afternoon.
Oh, nothing my nitro pills couldn't handle, and did.
Oh, good. Where's Sandy?
3 guesses.
The dark room.
Give the man a cigar. Or would you rather have a drink?
A drink, and I'll make it. Sandy said you ran into Greg Manchester at the exhibition.
Yes. I'm worried, Joe.
About what?
Greg said a funny thing to Sandy. It seems he heard somehow she'd gone to see Police Lieutenant McCoy. McCoy, about something. He didn't say what. And Sandy wouldn't tell me, but anyhow, he said he thought she was very foolish to do anything like that. And that it could be deadly dangerous. Those were the words he used. Deadly dangerous.
I see.
Sandy didn't tell you?
No, she didn't.
But not for her. That was the funny part of what he said. Not deadly dangerous for her. Not immediately.
Rose, what is it?
Heart pain, chest.
Your nitroglycerin pills.
They...
Sandy!
What is it? Oh, no.
Where are pills?
Bedroom. I'll get them.
Rose, now, let me get you to the couch. Lay you down here. There. Cushion behind your head. Sandy, hurry it!
Yes, here. Here, Rose. Open your mouth. That's it. Water, Joe?
Yeah.
Hurry, Joe.
Here you are.
All right now, honey. Swallow the pills. Swallow it, dear. That's it. Okay, all right? Sure to be all right in a moment or two. Rose? Rose, dear? Is it having any effect? Oh, Rose, is the pain letting up? Rose? Rose? Joe!
Here, let me...
Joe?
She's gone, Sandy.
No. No.
Afraid so, sweetheart.
He's done it. He threatened he would, and he has.
Greg Manchester?
He said he'd kill her if I didn't lay off, and I didn't, and he has. Thank you, Mac. Goodbye.
What'd he say, McCoy?
The toxicology lab tested the pills Rose took. That I gave her.
Oh, Sandy. All right, come on now, honey.
The pills. They found that they were triple strength. Triple the amount of nitroglycerin prescribed for Rose.
That's impossible. No pharmacist would make a mistake like that.
The pharmacist didn't. They got him out of bed and they met him at his place and checked his records. He made no mistake.
Well, then how... Sandy, how?
Greg!
Sandy.
Don't ask me how he did it. He got into the apartment maybe while we were out. Rose and I didn't change the bottles. I don't know. It doesn't matter. All that matters to me is that he did it. And I know in my bones I know that he did it. He murdered the woman he was married to before he married my mother. He killed my mother. He killed Rose. He'll kill Florence Chapman. He'll kill me. Unless I stop him. He's got to be stopped, Joe. Stopped and put behind bars like any other animal. And that's where I'm going to put him. With God's help, Joe, that's where I'll put him for the rest of his life.
Brave words. Words spoken under the pressure of emotion. Well, I think I can tell you at this point that Sandy did put Greg Manchester behind bars for the rest of his life when he made that one fatal slip. I was about to say that he overlooked something. But the fact is, he never saw it. But Sandy did. Or, to be more precise, her camera did. I'll return in a moment for Act 3. You will recall my saying earlier that the cleverer the murderer, the more likely he is to make one fatal slip. Something so minor, he never thought of it, never noticed it. What slip will Greg Manchester make? So far, he's got away with his killings. Sandy Oaks doesn't know where Greg Manchester will make that fatal slip, or when, or more particularly, how. But make it, she knows he will. And as I've told you, make it he did. The question is, what insignificant but very final mistake did he make?
You dare show your face here?
I came here to this funeral home to see Rose for the last time. I am her stepfather, Sandy, and have the right.
Murderer.
Sandy.
Get him out of here, Joe.
There's no need, Joe. I'm going. May I have a word with you outside?
Of course. Sandy, pull yourself together. Well?
Joe, you're a lawyer. Would you give me some advice? What am I to do with her? She hates me. Has hated me from the moment we met. I don't know why. Chemistry, I suppose.
Not much I can say to that, Greg, except You're a liar.
I beg your pardon?
You're a liar. It isn't chemistry between you and Sandy. It's Sandy's awareness, her awareness from the first, her trained awareness, because she's photographed so many people, that you're a phony. I agreed with her about that after only short acquaintance with you, Greg, but I didn't agree with her that you're a murderer. I agree now.
You can't mean... You think I murdered Geraldine?
I think you murdered Geraldine and Rose. I think you murdered another woman. In fact, probably other women.
You can stand there and to my face say...
Say it because it's obvious. There's such a thing as coincidence, Greg. But your history, your married history, goes beyond coincidence.
Then you are calling me a murderer.
I thought I'd made that plain. You're skating on thin ice now, and you're going to go through it. And when you do, you're going to find the water bitter cold, Greg. Bitter cold.
Won't you sit down, Miss Oakes?
Thank you, Mrs. Manchester.
Let me say, I only agreed to see you when you phoned and said you wanted to talk with me alone. I only agreed because you are his stepdaughter.
Mrs. Manchester, I wanted to see you because someone should warn you. Greg Manchester is a murderer.
What are you saying?
He murdered my mother. He murdered my sister Rose. He murdered the woman he was married to before he met my mother. He's going to murder you.
My dear, do you realize the gravity of this accusation?
The important thing is that you realize
What
it.
I realize is that you are a bitter and malicious young woman who, for some reason, I am totally unable to understand, wants to malign a man who has never done anything but good for you.
Good? What do you mean?
Your mother left him all her money, didn't she?
Yes.
He was also the beneficiary of her life insurance, wasn't he?
Yes.
And all of this, the fortune he might have had, he turned over to you and your sister. Is that not so?
It certainly is not so.
Greg told me.
Then he lied. He tricked my mother into giving him control of her money, power of attorney, and all of that, and then taking out a $100,000 life insurance policy, and then he killed her.
Can you prove that?
No. I can't, not yet. But whether I can or not, I think what you should keep in mind is that at least 2 previous wives have died suddenly and mysteriously after giving him control of their money. Have you?
Why, yes, I have. Oh, but I can't believe this. I won't believe it. My husband is one of the most dear and delightful men I've ever met.
Thank you, my dear. Thank you for your trust in me.
Greg, we didn't hear you come in.
Well, I'm glad you didn't. Otherwise, I'd not have overheard my stepdaughter's accusations. Sandy, I must ask you to leave. And please, don't come back.
Goodbye, Mrs. Manchester. And good luck.
Down all over you. Are you rich?
Well, I hope that's the last we see of her. I'm sure you didn't believe the lies she must have told about me.
Why, no, of course not, Greg.
You don't sound altogether sure, Florence.
Why, yes, I am. Only, Greg, you told me you had handed all your former wife's fortune over to her daughters.
No.
What?
Well, you misunderstood me.
I
said that I intended to do it. But I haven't had time to get around to it yet. It's quite involved, you know. Certain legalities which take time and... You don't believe me, do you?
No, I do. Only I'm certain you said you had already given them the money.
No, you're mistaken, my dear.
Greg.
Yes.
That power of attorney I signed the other day.
Yes.
Don't be offended, dear, but just as a matter of interest, does it give you control over my money?
Now, that's an odd question, Florence.
Does it, Greg?
Well, the power of attorney is just that. It empowers me to act in your behalf.
In other words, You can sign checks, withdraw money from my account, that sort of thing?
Yes, that sort of thing.
I see.
No. I don't think you do. For instance, you don't see that you have just signed your death warrant.
Death warrant?
I want you to go into your bedroom, start packing.
Packing?
You're going to visit your sister in New Orleans. Midnight. Make the call, Florence. Make it or I'll shoot you right now.
Hello?
Miss Oakes, this is Mrs. Manchester.
Yes?
I've got to see you right away. Could you come here to my apartment?
My fiancé and I were just about...
It's urgent, Miss Oakes. Dreadfully urgent. Please come.
Of course, all right. We'll be there as soon as we can
Oh,
make it.
thank you. Goodbye.
She's coming right over?
Yes. Greg, please don't kill me.
I'm sorry, Florence.
I'll give you my money.
I've already got it.
Then why kill me?
Pleasure, my dear. Simple pleasure. I find a certain thrill in murdering someone, especially silly women like you. When Sandy pushes that door buzzer, listen to it carefully, Florence. It'll be the last sound you hear in this life.
Greg!
All right. I must snap off the lights here in the bedroom. Oh, good. I'm coming. Oh, help me.
We heard a shot. What?
Yeah, in the bedroom. I just shot a prowler.
Pitch dark in here. The light switch.
Oh, yeah, here.
Oh, good Lord.
Florence Manchester.
What? Oh, no. Oh, no.
Sandy, for the love of... This is no time for snapping pictures.
I wasn't even aware I was...
Get to the phone. Call the police. And put that damn camera away.
Yes, okay.
Oh, I thought Florence was a prowler. I lost my head. I fired into the dark room.
Headquarters? Give me Lieutenant McCoy. Is he there? Yeah, hurry.
Sandy, please.
Look at it, Joe. Look at it and tell me, what do you see?
I see the body of Florence Manchester lying on her bedroom floor. I have seen the body of Florence Manchester lying on her bedroom floor for over a month now, in blow-up after blow-up after blow-up of the pictures you snapped that night. This blow-up, well, good Lord, Sandy, it's the biggest yet. Why?
Because these pictures prove Greg murdered Florence, that's why.
You keep saying that, but you don't tell me what proof.
Because I don't know. Because it's staring at me in the face and I can't see it. Joe, look at it, please. Just look at it. Look.
No.
Joe, just look.
I've had it, Sandy. All right. Maybe, like you say, Greg's story of what happened was so much eyewash. Maybe Florence didn't leave to visit her sister in New Orleans. Maybe she didn't come back unexpectedly while he was asleep in his bedroom. Maybe he didn't hear a noise in her bedroom, think it was a prowler, panic, and shoot into the darkened bedroom. Eyewash. All eyewash. But don't... What is it?
Eyewash. Give me that blow-up.
Ooh, with pleasure.
That's it, Joe. That's it.
What's what?
The proof.
Manchester, you've been booked on a charge of murder. The murder of your wife, Florence.
Now, look here,
Take it
Lieutenant.
easy. Thanks to your stepdaughter, Sandy Oakes, here, we have positive proof that you deliberately and with malice aforethought shot Florence Manchester to death.
What proof? I told you she packed her bag. You saw it in the bedroom and left to visit her sister in New Orleans.
But had come back unexpectedly, according to your story.
And I fired a shot into her pitch-black bedroom, thinking she was a prowler. That's what happened. That's the truth.
No, it's a lie. This photograph of your wife's body Sandy took it within a minute or two after the shot was fired.
So?
Look at it, Manchester. Look especially at the eyes. The eyes that are open and staring at the ceiling. What do you see?
Her eyes. What else am I supposed to see?
The size of her pupils. Look at the pupils of her eyes. Tell me what you see.
I see the pupils of her eyes.
Contracted. Contracted to the size of a pinhead. The human eye is like a camera, like that Instamat Sandy always carries. The darker an object or a place, the wider the pupil of the eye expands. The brighter an object or a place, such as your wife's bedroom, the narrower the pupil becomes, contracts. What's more, Manchester, when a person is killed instantly, as your wife was, the pupil remains unchanged for 2 to 3 minutes.
You're saying it.
The photo says it, not me. You stated that you fired that shot into a dark bedroom, killing your wife by accident. Her eyes, contracted to pinhead size, prove that she died in a lighted room, a brightly lighted room. If you have anything to say, make it in the form of a confession, won't you? On second thought, I'm not sure we need bother. It's all on film, Manchester.
A picture, they say, is worth 1,000 words. And so it would seem that Lieutenant McCoy is right. No words of Manchester's in his defense could possibly disprove the truth of his wife's dead, accusing eyes. I'll be back shortly. Gregory Manchester is no longer a name, but a number at State's Prison. Sandy's name has changed, too. From Miss Sandy Oakes to Mrs. Joseph Norman. Hasn't changed her habit of carrying that camera wherever she goes, however. But she seems to use it more and more these days, snapping pictures of a baby named Joe Jr. Our cast included Joan Hackett, Ralph Bell, Robert Dryden, and Joan Shea. The entire production was under the direction of Hyman Brown. And now, a preview of our next tale.
Mrs. Tipton, it's really hard to see where I'd fit in. I'm a trained social worker. That's how I make my living. At least, that was how I made my living. I was discharged 6 months ago. They were cutting down, and well, I haven't been able to find anything in my field, and I'm running short of money, so I'm willing to take almost any kind of job if it's respectable.
Look, I'm not going to ask you to do anything you wouldn't ordinarily do.
Well, do you need a secretary, something like that? I think I could manage that, maybe. Or be a companion.
Oh, I don't want a secretary or a companion. Why would I? I never do anything, and I prefer being alone.
Well, what is it that you do want?
I want somebody to live for me.
To live for you?
Radio Mystery Theater was sponsored in part by Anheuser-Busch Incorporated, Brewers of Budweiser, and Sign-Off, the sinus medicines. This is E.G. Marshall inviting you to return to our Mystery Theater for another adventure in the macabre. Until next time, pleasant dreams.
Come in. Welcome. I'm E.G. Marshall. I'm sure you know by now that the door you have just entered leads to a strange world, a land of forbidden fancies, peopled by giants and pygmies, kings and cobblers, saints and sinners. Happy children play in its streets, while just behind lurk iniquitous monsters. Unspeakable crimes are committed here, and acts of breathtaking valor. You are the sovereign in this place. It is the realm of your own imagination. Our story this time searches one of its deep recesses, the hidden place of fear. Our mystery drama, Death Pays No Dividend, was written especially for the Mystery Theater by Mary Jane Higby and stars Anne Shepard and Guy Sorrell. It is sponsored in part by imported Vigna Rosé wine and Buick Motor Division. I'll be back shortly with Act One.
I think you'll find that CBS Radio Mystery Theater is the best stories or mystery.
A famous traveler once said that the most important words in any language are, where is the exit? Où est la sortie? Donde está la salida? But what of the place where there is no way out, where every wall is a blank one, marked no exit? This is the circumstance of three men whose work brings them to the tip of a very small island. There was once a stockade here. It was the wall for which the street was named. Wall Street is silent now. The rush of the day has not yet descended. But 30 stories above the narrow street, footsteps echo sharply along a marble corridor.
Miss Hannigan, wait.
Oh, Mr. Green. Good morning.
I didn't expect you here this hour in the morning.
Mr. Green, I've been so worried.
About getting another job? Well, I'm sure we can help you. Our recommendation should be worth something in spite of...
No, not about myself. It's Mr. Ellis.
Oh?
He's horribly depressed.
Well, that's only to be expected. You put your whole life into a business, and then through no fault of your own, it suddenly blows up in your face.
No, wait. Please. Don't open the office door yet. I've got to tell you something.
Well, couldn't you tell me inside?
No, I think Mr. Ellis may be inside there. I do hope so. He's not in his apartment. He worked late last night, cleaning out the desk and making the last arrangements.
It's like a funeral.
Oh, it's worse than a funeral for Mr. Ellis. He's not like you and Mr. Folger. You both have families, someone to share.
Well, it's small comfort to share disgrace with people you love, to drag them down with you. My two boys.
I know. I didn't mean to minimize. It's just that, well, frankly, I'm afraid Mr. Ellis is going to do away with himself.
Kill himself? Oh, no, he wouldn't do that.
He made me go home last night. I wanted to stay with him, but he forced me to leave. I tried nearly all night to get him by phone. No answer.
Well, let's get in and see what's going on.
Oh, good heavens. Papers blowing all over the place.
Oh, the draft.
The wind... Mr. Green, look. Standing on the ledge to the left of the window.
Good Lord. Careful, Miss Hannigan. Mustn't startle him. He might jump. You better speak to him, but quietly.
Yes.
Try to sound calm.
Mr. Ellis, don't do it. Mr. Ellis, please don't. Mr. Ellis, he doesn't seem to hear me.
He hears you all right. Try again.
Come back in, please. You may hurt somebody else if you... Mr. Ellis, listen to me. Come back. You mustn't do this. Please. It's no use.
I'll try. Victor, don't do it. Listen to me. What I'm going to say is important. There's a better way. Did you hear me? There's a better way. John and I have a plan. You may be doing the right thing, Vic, but you're doing it the wrong way. Victor, get back in here.
He moved.
He's coming in.
Yes.
When he gets his head to the window, grab his arm.
Oh, if only he doesn't fall now.
Damn narrow ledge.
Oh, dear Lord, don't let him fall. Don't let him.
Oh, there you are, Victor. Steady, old man.
Come, Mr. Ellis.
Let me go. All right. Sit down.
Thank God.
Close the window, Miss Hannigan. I looked down. I could have done it,
if I hadn't looked down. I fouled this up like everything else. I can't do anything right.
Oh, don't say that. Nothing that happened was your fault. You were all victims of a rotten crook.
I didn't have the guts to jump. Just didn't have the guts.
Thank heaven you didn't. You must never try a thing like that again. Never.
All right.
It's a sin.
It's all right now, Miss Hannigan.
Yes. Yes, it's all right now. I'd never forgive myself.
No. Calm down. Good morning. What's going on? What's with Miss Hannigan? She's had a bad shock. What happened? Later, John. Please, Miss Hannigan.
I'm so scared. It's helpless. I never forgive myself.
Look, come on now. Snap out of it. Miss Hannigan. She's been under a terrible strain.
I'm sorry. My nerves.
Yes, of course. Victor, get us some water, will you? Oh, sure. I'll be a moment. I've got to talk to you alone, John. Okay. Come in my office. Are you sure you're all right now, Miss Hannigan?
I'm sorry I let go like that. It won't happen again.
All right. Relax. Try to go on as though nothing had happened. Here's the water. I didn't mean to put you through this. You, of all people. Come on, John. I think we should let Miss Hannigan go home.
No, that won't be necessary, Mr. Folger. I'm all right.
Kent? Yes? What did you mean? There's a better way. We'll talk about it later. Now, what was going on? Victor tried to jump out of the window. What? He was standing on the ledge when we got here this morning. Oh, for Pete's sake. That idiot. How long was he out there? Did he draw a crowd? No. Well, I suppose somebody must have seen him, though. That fool. Well, this settles it, John. We've got to let him in on the scheme. No. Vic's too unstable. He's sure to blow it. It's the only way to keep him from blowing it. It's obvious. If word gets around that a member of the firm tried to commit suicide and then something happened to us, they'd never stop the investigation. Not until our families were starving. Damn it all, that's not going to happen. I'm going to meet my obligation to Marie. We both have obligations, John. I'm not going to leave my wife helpless. I'm going to provide for her if it's the last thing I do. It will be. Look, you don't understand, Victor. His father founded this firm, and it's been Victor's whole life a sort of memorial to his father. Well, now this scandal... Well, the mood he's in, he's apt to do anything. The only way to protect the scheme is to let him in on it. Oh, you're probably right. But all my instincts are against it. Well, shall I get him in here? Yeah, I guess so. Well, I'll get him. But if he louses this up... Vic? Yes? Come in here a minute, will you? Yes? What is it? Close the door. You made a jackass of yourself, didn't you? Cool it, John. Now, if you've got some cockeyed scheme to keep the scandal from breaking, don't waste my time. We'll be lucky if we get less than 20 years. Oh, come on. Drop the emotional jag and talk sense. Kent and I are in a worse spot than you are. We both have families to provide for, right? And there is just one way to do it. Our life insurance. You can't collect on suicide. We know that. But you can collect on murder. What? I don't get it. A good, clean bullet in the back of the head when you're least expecting it. It's an easy way to go, Vic. You'd never know what hit you. Well, how do you think you're going to bring that off? Never mind. I can bring it off. Years ago, I did a favor for somebody. I didn't know him too well, but I used to drop into his place once in a while for... Well, never mind what for. Later, he got mixed up with some pretty notorious characters, so I figured he'd be in a position to arrange what they call a contract. What kind of contract? Oh, for Pete's sake, I know you've devoted your whole life to the firm, but don't you ever go to the movies? You must know there's such a thing as a hired killer. Oh, that kind of contract? Yes, that kind. So, we have 2 contracts right now. Now, do you want to make a third? You mean pay somebody to kill me?
$3,000.
Well, now, I don't know.
It makes a great deal more sense than what you just tried to do.
No pain.
No mess. These guys are professionals.
It's a tough idea to get used to. How do I go about it?
One quick phone call and $3,000 in cash.
Well, maybe you ought to take a few hours to think it over. Well, I've tried 3 times to kill myself. I haven't the nerve. Okay, go ahead. Make your phone call. You're sure? Yes.
Because once I complete this call, there'll be no turning back.
You understand that, Victor?
You got to be sure you want to go through with. Hello? Is Louis there? Right, I'll hold on. You sure you want me to go ahead?
Yes.
Louis? This is John Folger. Yes, I know. I promised not to call you again. No. We're going through with it. We, want to add another name to the shareholders. 3,000, right? Where? All 3 of us? Oh. All right. Will do. We're to put the money in a book in the 42nd Street Library. Put the book back on the shelf at exactly 5 p.m., walk out, and stand for a few minutes chatting near the lions on the library steps. And then split.
Oh, they're kidding.
Oh, no. They're in earnest.
Deadly earnest. Why hang around on the steps?
I should imagine somebody wants to get a good look at us.
The killer?
Yes. It would be a shame to rub out the wrong guys.
A suicide pact. But quite unlike your ordinary run-of-the-mill agreement, the participants have relinquished any option of withdrawing. From now on, each one knows that his next move may well be his last. We'll see how they stand up under that unpleasant knowledge when we return with Act 2. Rather than face a financial scandal, the officers of a small but highly respected Wall Street firm have decided to commit suicide. Through a go-between, they have arranged for a paid executioner to do the job for them. An easy way out. We'll never know what hit us, they tell each other. But have they considered their remaining days and hours when even the most chance encounter will chill the blood and the question rise, is this the face of my killer? To see how they are facing up under the strain, let's listen to a telephone conversation.
Hello.
Kent, this is John. You heard what happened?
No.
Vic goofed off. Ran away. Remember we were giving May Hannigan a vacation? The cruise to the Caribbean? Well, at the last minute, he decides to go with her.
Well, I guess he wants to do some of the things he never took time for before.
Oh, come off it. He's running away. He knows they won't dare shoot him aboard ship. They couldn't make a getaway. He's as safe on that boat as he would be in jail.
Well, what of it? They'll hit him when he gets off.
Well, I was hoping they'd tend to Vic first before they got you or me.
Did you tell Louis that?
I couldn't tell him anything. He made me promise never to contact him again. Louis's not part of the mob or family or whatever they call it nowadays. They just use his place of business sometimes, meet there.
What kind of business is he in?
Look, I swore to keep him out of it. Now, what you don't know can't hurt Louis.
Okay. Well, I wouldn't worry too much about Vic.
Well, damn it all, I do worry. He hasn't got our motivation. Once you and I are out of the way, what's to keep him from getting the wind up and running to the police with the whole story?
I don't think he can do that. There's such a thing as accessory before the fact, you know. This may look like a suicide pact to us, but to the police it's going to be murder.
Oh. You mean he'd face a murder rap, huh?
Well, he might.
I just hope he knows that.
Darn thing startles me every time I hear it.
We should be used to it by now. They blow it every day at noon. I've been looking all over the ship for you.
I was taking a turn around the deck.
Mr. Ellis, you're shaking.
No, I'm all right.
Look, I'm not absolutely sure, but I think I have something wonderful to tell you. Did you hear the news broadcast this morning?
No, indeed. I'm not wasting my last few days listening to... No, I didn't.
Well, you know those penny gold stocks you bought a few years ago, you and Mr. Green?
Penny gold? Oh, yes, the stock we bought from Harrison to help him out of a tight spot.
Mm-hmm.
It's worthless.
Well, that company, I think it's the same company, has just made the greatest gold strike since 1849.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Harrison's company?
I went straight to the radio room as soon as I heard it. The broadcaster taped, you know, and they were kind enough to run it again for me. I have the notes I took here in my purse. Oh, dear, it's awfully windy, isn't it?
We'll go inside.
The President Taft Mining Corporation? That's the one, isn't it?
I believe so. Yes. Here, let me get the door.
That's better. Relief to get out of that wind. Now, here's what I took down. The President Taft Mining Corporation has uncovered what seems to be the lost Fortuna vein. Does that make sense to you?
Yes. The Fortuna, yes, it does. Harrison mentioned the Fortuna vein.
This ledge of almost pure gold said to exist in Mono County, California.
Mono County, that's right.
Has been sought by miners for over 100 years.
The Fortuna vein, it must be Harrison's company. Well,
this changes everything, doesn't it?
Oh, it sure does.
You can pay off the debts of that crook and his disgraceful charisma funding company.
Well, if this report is accurate, we can.
You have a lot of Taft stock, and with the price of gold now...
Who'd ever have thought? Why, that part of California has been picked over so much, it seems impossible there'd be an ounce of gold left in the ground. We only bought it to help Harrison out.
Oh, I'm so happy for you. You deserve it.
Oh, Miss Hannigan, you're a jewel.
Oh, Mr. Ellis, my hair.
You don't mind my kissing you?
No. So happy.
What a day. Come on, down to the bar. We'll crack a bottle of champagne. Kent, I'm so glad you decided to telephone me here aboard ship instead of waiting till I got back. I've been trying to get you all afternoon. There was no answer at the office.
No, the office is closed.
Well, where are you, home?
No, I'm calling from outside, a payphone.
Well, great news, eh? It is Harrison's company, isn't it?
What?
The Taft Mining Corporation.
Oh, yes. Yes, Harrison's stock has gone way up, out of sight.
Well, that just about gets us off the hook, doesn't it?
Yes. Financially, it looks like things can be worked out.
Oh, great. Who'd ever have thought it? You got in touch with the bank and called Morgan and Benson, didn't you? Kent? Hello?
Yes, I'm here.
Kent, John got in touch with that man, Louis, didn't he? Called it off? Kent?
Vic, that's why I phoned.
Is John all right?
No.
You mean he didn't get to Louis?
He never had the chance.
Oh, when? Where?
In front of his house. Just one shot, Vic. From a passing car. Just one shot.
Mr. Ellis, what on earth?
Not the greatest disguise in the world, but the best I could do. I bought the hippie clothes from a kid down in Tourist, and I had the ship's beauty parlor dye my hair. Goodbye, Miss Hannigan.
Wait. You seriously believe there's a gunman waiting for you when we dock?
That's the hell of it. I don't know where he is. Here, at the office, my apartment.
Well, don't rush off like this. You're not thinking clearly. There's only one sensible thing to do. Go to the police.
The police?
Tell them the whole story and ask for protection.
I can't do that.
It's the only way.
But I can't do that to John.
Mr. Folger's dead, Mr. Ellis.
His widow's alive and she's an invalid. If I I go to the police, they'll cancel the insurance you'll get.
The firm can take care of Mrs. Folger.
We'll be lucky if we can pay our debts and save the firm. No, I got into this mess, and I've got to see it through. I'm going to make a break and run for it. I'll be the first one off the ship and run to a taxi.
Please, listen to me. Don't rush down the gangplank alone. Let some of the other passengers start first. Then saunter off casually. Oh, dear. Take my arm. I'm coming with you.
No, absolutely not. I'm a living target. Stay out of range, Miss Hannigan. Your life depends on it. Goodbye.
Where do you plan to go?
Some hotel, I guess, till I can figure a way to get out of town safely.
Here. Look, take my keys. Go to my apartment.
No, I'm not going to drag you into this.
It's the safest place for you. Nobody will dream of looking for you there. And I can reach you by phone. I'll go straight to the office. That way, you'll know what's going on.
Well, all right. But only for a few hours.
We've got to talk to this Louis person.
I hope Kent's still alive. If not, you have the power of attorney I executed for you in Puerto Rico. Take complete charge until you hear from one of us again. If you ever do. Goodbye, Miss Hannigan.
Hello?
Oh, good. You made it to the apartment all right.
Yes. I haven't dared open a window or raise a blind. Everything all right at the office?
I don't know. I guess so. I have an uneasy feeling that I'm being watched as I sit here.
You're all alone?
Yes. It's Saturday, you know. I'm just getting jittery, I guess. It's hard to keep my imagination from running riot. There is one strange thing, though.
What's that?
One of the walls in your office is half painted. You didn't authorize the paint job, did you?
Well, of course not. We're dissolving the firm. Building manager must have made a mistake.
No, he says not. His painters didn't do it. Oh, by the way, I think I know who that man Louis is. Oh. The one who set up the deal.
Well, how'd you find that out?
The filing cabinet in Mr. Folger's office. There's a promissory note made to Mr. Folger by a Louis Vongoli. He owns a small bar on the east side.
Well, makes sense. John said he used to drop in at Louis' place. The bar, eh?
Mm-hmm. I'm going to drop in on Louis myself and put an end to this awful business. But if I fail, we better get you out of town in a hurry. You can go to my grandfather's house in the country.
Now, I'm not going to drag you any further into this. And I certainly don't want to bring your grandfather into...
my house now. I inherited it. You've got to go, Mr. Ellis, because I called Kent Green's home.
Yes? Well, for heaven's sake, May, tell me what happened.
He's been missing since the day John Folger died.
What'll it be, miss? Some nice fresh oysters? Just come in this morning.
I'd like to see the owner, please. I want to talk to Louis.
You're talking to him?
Well, it's a confidential matter.
This is the lunch hour, lady. I'm busy. Come back, say, 3:30, 4 o'clock.
No. I've got to talk to you now. It's about John Folger.
Never heard of him.
Here's something to refresh your memory. This is your signature, isn't it?
What?
Your signature on this promissory note. You know who Mr. Folger was, and you know what happened to him.
Hey, Joe, take over, will you? Come on, lady. Over to this table in the corner. Now, sit down. What's this all about?
This is your signature, isn't it?
I ain't sure.
Oh, come on. Louis, you borrowed $12,000 from Mr. Folger on July 8th, 1948.
What are you, a cop?
I'm Mr. Folger's secretary, and Mr. Green's, and Mr. Ellis's. We want to call the deal off.
I don't know nothing about no deal.
You arranged the contract, and you're the only one who can cancel it.
You got the wrong guy.
Oh, please, you must help me. We have no way of reaching this man from Chicago. Please, tell me.
I gotta get back to my counter.
At least tell me who he is.
You'll have to leave now. I need this table.
We've got to stop him.
Now, for the last
You're
time...
going to let another man die? A man who doesn't want to die because of a mistake.
Like I said, this is all Greek to me. But, I did hear there's talk around that Froggy Bynes is in town.
Who?
You heard me.
Where can I find him?
I wouldn't know.
Well, tell me what he looks like.
Never seen Froggy in my life.
Froggy? Is he a Frenchman?
They call him that because he ain't got hardly no voice. That's all I know.
No voice?
Yeah, he got a knife in his throat when he was a kid. Can't hardly make no sound at all.
A killer with hardly any voice. That's not much to go on, is it? May Hannigan's confidence is at a low ebb as she walks out of Louis Vangoli's bar onto the teeming streets of Manhattan. How long, she wonders, can she keep the last remaining partner of Ellis Green and Folger alive? We'll find the answer to that question when we return shortly with Act 3. May Hannigan found herself peering nervously into every darkened doorway as she approached the garage which housed her automobile. This was a job for a private detective, she thought, not a skilled typist. Her hands were icy as she drove up to the apartment building where Victor Ellis was waiting. And it was with relief that she turned the wheel over to him. In minutes, they had crossed the Triborough Bridge and sped up Bruckner Boulevard. Now they are on the Connecticut Turnpike.
Mr. Ellis, I wish you'd let me take this whole business to the police.
For the last time, no, May, no.
But you're making yourself accessory to murder.
Well, if you look at it that way, I am accessory to a murder. There's nothing to be done about it. What else did this man Louis say?
Nothing, except that Froggy has no voice.
Well, maybe Louis will tell the mob to call it off.
No, he won't contact anybody. Now that there's been one killing, he's terrified of being involved. He's frozen with fear.
Poor guy.
Poor guy. What he did, what you all did was a sin. Don't you worry about that?
I've got other things on my mind. That car behind us, for instance.
A car?
Yeah. A big one. Black, I think. It's been with us ever since we left Bruckner Boulevard.
Are you sure it's the same one? Slow down a bit. You give him a chance to pass you.
Okay.
He's dropping back. No, he's not going to pass.
No, but that truck is. Probably all imagination. Perfectly innocent chap, no doubt, on his way home to his wife and kids.
Yes, but we can't assume that. There's an exit near here. Get off the turnpike. If he follows us, we'll know.
We'll know we're in trouble. Still there?
No. Yes. There he is.
He's after us, all right. Okay, Buster, if it's a race you want.
Oh, Mr. Ellis, not so fast. You have to turn left at the next light. Stop, Mr. Ellis, red light. Look out!
Made it.
Oh, you nearly killed us both.
I lost him.
Yes, he stopped for the light.
Doesn't prove a thing, except that he's not taking any chances on a brush with the law.
Now, you past the Veterans Hospital and the cemetery.
We're going to lose him for good.
Oh, look out, the van!
Sorry.
I was afraid you didn't see us. You get back on the turnpike, you turn up that hill.
Is he in sight?
No. Slow down. You're coming to a crossroads. There's a turnpike entrance over there.
Good. Now I'm going to open her up. Pray we don't get stopped for a ticket.
A ticket? That would be just fine with me. A station house sounds like a nice, safe place to spend the night. What are you doing now?
85.
Oh, heaven help us. I didn't know this car had it in her.
Oh, no.
Is it him? Oh, good Lord, he must be doing 100.
Well, that settles it. You're going to get out.
No.
Don't argue. Your life's in danger. Got John from a moving car with one shot.
Don't stop now.
I've got to get you out of this car. It's a death trap.
Not here. It's the next gas station. Lots of people. There are bright lights. That's the best place.
All right.
Remember how to get to the house?
Yes. Right through Hamilton Village, up River Road,
Right.
to a sign that says The Laurel.
Right. And the house at the top of the hill. But don't get off the turnpike unless you know you've lost it. Don't let him overtake you on a dark road.
Here's the gas station.
Oh, Mr. Ellis, I beg you. Stop here and call the police.
I'll get out.
Oh, dear. You'll go to the house, then.
I'll try. Heaven knows I'll try.
I'll phone there every half hour till you answer. Oh, dear heaven. What can I do? What can I do? Operator, this is an emergency. Get me the Hamilton police. Hamilton. H-A-M-I. That's right. Hello? Is this the police station in Hamilton? I want to report a stolen car. My name? Hannigan. I own the house on Laurel Hill. Oh, well, hello, Sergeant Kelly. Yes, this is May Hannigan. Look, this weird-looking man, he's middle-aged, dyed hair, wearing tie-dyed pants, striped sneakers, and a sweatshirt with a pair of big red lips on the back. A real weirdo. Yes. And I think he's on drugs or something. He stole my car. Yes, that's correct. And he's got my house keys as well. He's on his way up there now. Yes? And will you send a police car to head him off? Yes, I'll be in tomorrow and press charges. Thank you. Well, that'll put him where he'll be safe for the night.
Hello?
Oh, you made it.
Yeah. I was doing 90 most of the time.
And you never saw a cop?
Not a sign of one.
It's funny.
It's darn cold in this house.
Yes, I had the furnace turned off when I left on the cruise.
You still at the gas station?
No, hamburger place down the road.
Look, do you have any blankets here?
Yes, upstairs. But I don't think you're going to need them.
Hey.
Yes.
Just a minute.
What is it?
I thought I heard something.
Oh, well, it's an old house full of creaks and groans.
No, not like that. I turned off the lamp.
Look out the window. Isn't there a police car there?
Why should there be a police car?
But you're sure there's no police car?
Positive. I'm going back out to the garage.
No. Oh, for heaven's sake, don't leave the house. The moon is like daylight.
I hear him. He's in the house with me.
But don't go out. Stay inside.
Oh, if I only had a gun.
Grandfather's gun is there.
Where?
In the desk, where the phone is. Bottom drawer. But it's in a strong box with a combination lock. Victor, you're sure it's not the police?
Well, of course I am.
Put on the lamp again. I'll give you the combination of the lock.
I'm going to make a dash for the stairs.
No. You'd have to cross the open hall. Please, do as I tell you. Get that drawer open. Have you got the lamp on again? Mr. Ellis?
I'm afraid to light it.
Do you hear anything now?
No.
Keep your hand on the light switch. Turn it off if you see him and drop to the floor.
Go ahead.
You see the lock?
Yeah.
Keep calm. Don't make mistakes. 6 left.
6. 2. My hands are sweating.
A 9. Right.
Got it.
Got it. That's it.
Yes. Yes, it's open.
Mr. Ellis! Mr. Ellis! Victor! Oh, no!
I'm well aware of my constitutional rights, and I don't think you can lock me up in that cell. But I don't happen to have identification on me, but I can assure you that I am Victor Fairchild Ellis, Jr. of Ellis, Folger & Green, a brokerage firm.
Sure you are. That outfit's the latest thing on Wall Street. All the brokers run around in red, white, and blue sneakers. Come on. In you go.
I can explain...
You can explain all you like in the morning. Now, in. Both of you.
What's this? I'm an innocent bystander. I got nothing to do with this guy. You got nothing on me.
Carrying a concealed weapon. Get moving. Or are we going to have to give you a little help?
You're not locking me up with this nut, are you?
That's the idea. Now simmer down and get some sleep. You're going to need your wits about you in the morning.
Heaven notices.
Well, Froggy Burns, you're just the man I want to talk to. And this is a good place to do it. Come to think of it, it's a great place. The best I could ever find.
I'm sorry I had you arrested, but I didn't know what else to do.
Well, thank the Lord you did. I've never been so jittery in my life. As soon as I got my shaky hands on that gun, it went off.
But I heard 2 shots.
Well, that was Sergeant Kelly. He shot the lock off the front door and rushed in.
And where was Froggy through all this?
Still in the glassed-in sun porch, trying to pick the lock. When he heard the commotion, he ran out, and the other cop in the prowl car nabbed him. Do you have the office keys, May?
Yes, but there's somebody in the office. I heard a scraping noise.
We've nothing to fear now. Here, I'll open it.
It's the painter.
Say, we didn't order a decorating job. What do you... Why, Kent.
Mr. Green.
Oh, am I glad to see you.
Well, it's great to see you, Kent. So you're okay.
I've been wondering about you.
We were afraid you... Oh, Mr. Green. I'm so happy you're all right.
What's all this with the paint and dirty overalls?
Well, the day John was shot, I sent the office staff home early. You can imagine I was pretty nervous. I noticed there were painters working in the outside hall. So I talked one of them into selling me his overalls and some paint and brushes. And in case anybody should be watching me from another building, I started painting the back wall here. Nobody pays any attention to painters. As soon as 5 o'clock came, I walked right out with the rest of the paint crew. Of course, I didn't dare go home, so... Well, I got an old station wagon and put a sign in the window, Meteor Decorating Company. I've been moving around more or less freely ever since.
Well, I think of what I went through. You were simply roaming around town with paint on your face.
Well, you're both safe now.
Yes, Kent. The contract for killing us has been canceled.
Oh, thank the Lord. Now I can get washed up.
Suppose we celebrate with a cup of coffee. I can make some in Mr. Folger's office.
Your office now, May.
Yes. That is, yes.
Her office?
A great woman, Kent. She saved my life. I asked her to marry me.
Well, congratulations.
No, she refused. Said what she really wanted was a partnership in the firm.
Partnership? Well, that's a swift rise.
What could I do? I gave it to her.
Strange having a woman in John's office.
I know. Frankly, it bothers me. My father was very conservative, you know, especially about the firm.
Ellis, Green, and Hannigan. That's not a bad letterhead.
No, but if my father knew what Hannigan stood for, he'd turn in his grave.
Well, let's look at it this way. If it weren't for Hannigan, you'd be turning in yours.
So May Hannigan accomplished 2 very difficult things that night. She saved her employer from certain death, and she raised herself into the gilded executive ranks. And that, as any secretary will tell you, is the hardest thing in the world to do. But as May herself often says, there must be an easier way. I'll be back shortly. You're driving a car you knew you were going to buy the minute you saw it. Skyhawk. Buick Skyhawk. You just knew it. It looks European, but it's a Buick. Living free.
Hi, I'm Burl Ives. You know, nothing perks up a meal like an exciting side dish. And I'd like to tell you about one your family and your guests are sure to love and keep on loving. It's Uncle Ben's long grain and wild rice. It's a mouth-watering mixture of Uncle Ben's converted brand rice, wild rice, herbs, and seasonings. It's the kind of side dish that can make an ordinary meal a great meal and can keep a great meal from becoming ordinary. In fact, Uncle Ben's long grain and wild rice is so good, they tell me that most everyone who tries it comes back for more. That's because there are no compromises in quality. But that's the way Uncle Ben's does business. So, to make an ordinary meal a great meal, try Uncle Ben's long grain and wild rice. And to make sure you get the quality ingredients and good taste I've told you about, make sure it's Uncle Ben's.
This Friday and Saturday during Macy's exciting two-day home sale, you'll find big savings on furniture, TVs, stereos, appliances, mattresses, and much, much more. In Macy's floor covering department, you'll save $3 to $5 a square yard on a selection of Dacron polyester broadloom. Choose from a dense velvet, a thick plush, or a heavy texture in an array of solids and tweeds. Regularly $12.99 to $14.99, now just $9.99 a square yard installed over sponge rubber padding. You'll also find 20% reductions on every custom-length drapery at Macy's. Choice of styles, sizes, and colors. Fabrics in traditional, contemporary, and early American. Designs cut to the exact inch length in standard widths. Bring your window measurements, all delivered in just 3 weeks. There is also a huge assortment of machine-washable Dacron polyester Neon curtains on sale at substantial savings. Just a few of the great buys Friday and Saturday at Macy's exciting two-day home sale. Broadloom at all Macy's stores except Flatbush. If there's a moral to our story tonight, it's this. Suicide is not even a loser's game. It's no game at all. Because death is one commodity that nobody can cheat you out of. When your option comes due, you'll cash in. In the meantime, life has a lot of surprises in store. Don't ever sell it short. Our cast included Ann Shepard, Guy Sorrell, Court Benson, and Ken Harvey. The entire production was under the direction of Hyman Brown. Radio Mystery Theater was sponsored in part by Contact, the 12-hour cold capsule, and Uncle Ben's long grain and wild rice. This is E.G. Marshall inviting you to return to our Mystery Theater for another adventure in the macabre. Until next time, pleasant dreams.
WOR Mystery Theater was also brought to you in part by ShopRite Supermarkets, where you get a lot more for a little less. The preceding program was furnished by the Columbia Broadcasting System. You're now set for news with John Scott reporting. This is WOR News.
Our mystery drama, The Cesar Curse, was especially adapted from the Robert Louis Stevenson classic For the Mystery Theater by Murray Burnett and stars Richard Kiley. It is sponsored in part by Uncle Ben's Long Grain and Wild Rice and Anheuser-Busch Incorporated, Brewers of Budweiser. I'll be back shortly with Act One. We all know that there is no such thing as a curse transmitted from one generation to the next, which calls down evil upon all the descendants of the cursed family. Science, of course, tells us that such diseases as diabetes, hemophilia, and madness can be handed down in a family, but science frowns upon anything of the extraordinary or bizarre. In this instance, I must respectfully take issue with the scientists, and as a case in point, bring you the story of George Capewell, whom we first meet at the age of 67, as he adds a codicil to his last will and testament.
Today, my family physician told me that death is no more than a week or two away. Therefore, I feel compelled to explain why I, George Capewell, will be the last of the Capewells. This was my choice, and this codicil to my will explain why I made it. For the sake of clarity, I must go back some 40 years to one summer when I fell seriously ill and almost died while vacationing in Spain.
Well, young man, you are looking almost alive again. And I don't mind saying it is a small miracle.
Sponsored by you, Dr. Valdez.
Well, let's give God a little credit, too. And now, to complete the cure, I insist that you have a few weeks of absolute rest and good, fresh air.
Well, if you're talking about one of those sanatoriums, forget it.
The place I have in mind is as completely unlike a sanatorium as you can imagine. It is a residencia, the estate of a very old and proud family who have fallen upon hard times and are willing to take an American as a paying guest with one proviso.
Which is?
That you remain a stranger. You are not permitted the smallest intimacy.
And so it came about that I found myself in an ancient, dilapidated horse-drawn carriage, driven by a young man whose appearance excited both attraction and repulsion. Lithe and well-built, with large, brilliant yellow eyes, good aquiline features, he was also so extremely hairy that one instinctively drew back from him. Do we have much farther to travel, Felipe?
Over 2 bridges and past the top of the mountain, senor.
Get on, move!
There's no need to whip the horse. I'm in no hurry.
Sometimes he grows lazy. Besides, there is the bad place. We come to it shortly.
Bad place? On this road?
Oh, yes, senor. The first bridge. You can begin to hear it.
I regarded Felipe with indulgence and even a sort of liking as I listened to his innocent prattling until we drew up before a great, arched Moorish doorway secured by iron-studded gates.
We arrived, senor. We are home. You can descend from the carriage now, please. Through this gate, senor. Please. This is the courtyard, senor. It is very beautiful by day. And now, senor, if you please, up these stairs. Carefully.
Oh, thank you, Felipe. I don't suppose we could have more light.
Alas, senor, we have no electric. Only the candles. We are here, senor. Your room.
But how pleasant. How really pleasant. And a table laid for supper. That's very thoughtful.
Yes, senor. It is a fine room. A very fine room.
In daylight, what can I see from these windows?
The courtyard, senor. And some of the countryside. It is very fine. And the fireplace, too. The fire is good. It melts out the pleasure from your bones.
Well, I suppose that's one way of putting it. Those animal skins on the wall, they come from...
I do not know. They have been here always. But look at the bed. See the fine sheets. How soft and smooth.
Well, you're careful with that candle. You'll set the place on fire. Here, let me have it.
So smooth. So smooth.
This looks like a fine wine you have here on the table.
It's from a nearby vineyard.
Will you join me in a glass?
Oh, no. No, not that. That is for you. I hate it.
Very well. But then, Felipe, I would like to make this first glass of wine in this residencia a toast to your hospitality and to your mother, the senora.
Gracias, senor.
Which reminds me, when shall I have the pleasure of conveying my respects and thanks to your mother?
Never. No, never. Good night, senor.
Even now, as I write this document, with the cold hand of death coming ever closer to me, I can still feel the warmth of that fire and see the portrait of the woman on the wall, illuminated by the flickering flames. For 10 days I gained in strength, saw no one but Felipe, and for 10 nights fell asleep with the face of that portrait looking down on me. The face of a magnificently beautiful woman, yet marred by a cruel, sullen, and sensual expression. I was struck by the strong resemblance to Felipe, and one morning as he served me my breakfast, that portrait on the wall.
An ancestor, senor. More coffee?
No, thank you. Who is that crossing the courtyard?
The padre.
He comes to hear your sister's confession?
Yes.
He's been doing that for some time, for many years?
Many years.
Well, then he would know who the woman in the portrait is. I could ask him.
You are not to ask questions. You are not. I have been told.
But who told you? Your mother, the senora?
You will be punished. You will see. You will be punished. And it will not be because of me or anything I have done. It will not be my fault.
And now my pen hesitates. Even today, 40 years later, I feel ashamed. I justified my action by telling myself that I was entitled to pierce the veil of mystery that surrounded this strange household. What I refused to admit was the spell the woman in the portrait had cast upon me. Day after day, the double knowledge of her wickedness and my weakness grew clearer. So, shamefully I confess, I set out to find Felipe, to continue questioning that childlike mind. I knew I would find him in the woods, but I didn't know I'd be horrified by my discovery.
Felipe, let that squirrel go. Let it go, I said.
Yes, senor. I am sorry.
Sorry? What kind of person are you? A little while ago, you pretended to be upset because I didn't like your coffee, and now I find you torturing a poor, dumb animal. You're the one who deserves to be tortured. I'm going to tell your mother I don't want to see you again. You're not to serve me, you understand?
Please, senor, please. I go upon my knees to you. Forgive and bear with me, senor. I try so hard. Forgive me, please.
Only if you promise never to do anything like this again.
Oh, I promise, senor. I promise. Thank you, senor. I promise. I swear, senor.
Felipe! Felipe, come back. Come back here. I want to talk to you.
But no amount of calling brought him back. I returned to the house, and as I walked slowly across the courtyard, I first saw my hostess. She was seated on an animal skin, leaning against a pillar, sunning herself. She was an elegant, sumptuous figure, and although she must have heard my footsteps, she seemed unconscious of my presence. Good day, Senora...
Cesar.
May I join you?
If you wish.
You know who I am?
A guest.
I should have presented myself to you before, but your son told me you are unavailable.
He may sit here if you stay out of my sun.
You like the sun?
It warms me, and I like warmth.
I really wanted to talk to you about the woman in the portrait in my room.
Portrait?
Yes, the painting. Surely you know it. Felipe told me she was one of the family. She fascinates me. Who was she?
I think she was my mother.
You think? Well, don't you know who... I beg your pardon. You look so much like the woman in the portrait. Your mother, I think you said. I really would like to know something about her.
The sun is going behind the clouds. I am afraid the black wind is coming, and we shall all suffer from it. I must bid you adieu.
And she was gone, silently, gracefully. She was right about the wind. It came from the malarial lowlands and over the Sierras, and stormed about the house with a hollow buzzing that was wearisome to the ear, depressing to the mind, and jangled the nerves. By the time Felipe brought my supper, I was in a state of nervous exhaustion. Felipe also was in a state of nerves, his yellow eyes burning in his face like two candles, his hand shaking so that the silver clattered against the plates. For heaven's sake, stop that noise!
Sorry, senor. It's the black wind. It pulls and pulls at you, telling you must do something, but you don't know what it is you must do.
Your mother? She seemed to be unhappy with the wind, too. You think she's ill?
Oh, senor, with this wind, who can be well?
Now I must write of that black wind and blacker night. I went to bed early and couldn't sleep. But suddenly, a sound filled the house. I thought of Felipe and the squirrel. I ran to the door only to find that it was locked from the outside. It resisted all my efforts to open it. I sank to the floor, my hands pressed over my ears, trying to blot out those inhuman ravings. It was useless. The last thing I heard before losing consciousness was those ravings from hell.
There are those among us who feel that some mysteries are best left unsolved. Some secrets never should be told. Because George Capewell was not one who believed this, we can continue in a moment with Act Two. But I warn you, the discovery may well send a shuddering chill through your bones. Everyone within the range of my voice has experienced some evidence of love's blindness. The doting male sees his beloved as perfection, whereas the young girl may see his faults, but is certain that all that's needed to correct them is the gift of her love. George Capewell was destined to fall in love, profoundly, electrifyingly, overwhelmingly, for the first and last time in his life, only to find that this all-consuming passion was to lead him to the very brink of hell.
I must continue with this writing, so you will know why I leave this earth with no child to carry on the name of Capewell. Even though the writing brings back all the anguish and terror of those days more than 40 years ago. When I awoke on the floor the morning after the terrible night of the black wind, the sun was shining, and a cheerful Felipe appeared with my breakfast.
Good morning, senor. Is it not a beautiful day?
Yes, beautiful. And quiet. Well, that'll be enough coffee for the moment.
Yes, senor.
What were those dreadful cries I heard last night?
The wind, senor?
Now, you know that's not true. And I mean to have the truth. Was it some animal you were torturing?
No, senor. I swear it was not. I promised you, senor. And Felipe keeps his promises.
Give me your hand, Felipe.
Yes, senor.
This is the hand that tortured that poor squirrel.
But, senor, I swore to you...
No use to struggle, Felipe. I'm stronger than you are. And unless I'm mistaken, this is the hand that locked my door last night.
Senor, please, let go of my hand.
I'm a stranger, Felipe, but I'm also a guest. And I will not be locked in my room like a criminal. Now, you understand?
Yes, senor. Yes. Thank you. I understand.
Now, how is it I never see your sister? Does she have some reason for avoiding me?
My sister is a good girl. It is she that keeps me up, senor. Without her, I would be lost, senor.
And no doubt she's reproved you for your sin of cruelty.
12 times. And when I told her what you had done in the woods, she was pleased. Yes, she was happy.
Then who or what was unhappy enough to make those sounds in the night?
I have told you, senor. The wind. The black wind.
Now, you know I'm stronger than you are, Felipe.
Please, senor, let me go.
And I will get the truth if I have to shake it or beat it out of you.
Please, senor.
Yes, who is it?
Father Ramon, may I enter?
Yes, come in.
I was passing in the courtyard. I thought I heard a cry.
It was I, Padre. I burned my hand with the coffee.
Ah, so, Felipe. Then I will be going.
No, Father. Don't go. I'd like to speak to you.
Yes, my son.
If the senor doesn't need me...
You can go, Felipe. I should introduce myself, Father. I'm...
George Cape Wells. The guest here at the Residencia.
Yes, Father. And, well, you see before you a very puzzled and disturbed man.
Is there some way I can help?
I hope so, Father. Do you know the woman in this portrait on the wall?
Ah, yes. That is the likeness of Marla Cesar.
Well, I was hoping that you could tell me something about her.
She was the great-grandmother of the present daughter of the house, who is named after her. But why are you concerned with the painting?
Well, because of the beauty of the woman, because of the resemblance of the present Senora Cesar to this woman, and... Well, because, Father, the woman in the portrait has cast a dark shadow on my mind.
I know that you came here to regain your health after a severe illness. Perhaps there are still some traces of fever that linger.
No fever in the world could make me hear the cries I heard last night, Father. They sounded like the bestial screams of a soul in hell.
And you think they came from the portrait?
The whole atmosphere of this residencia is strange. I've never seen the daughter of the house, and
That is how it should be. Oh, if you will forgive me, I should be with her now. I don't like to keep her waiting.
You're telling me to close my eyes and ears to everything that goes on and not interfere?
I am only reminding you that you are a guest, and you should remain a guest. Nothing more.
Sleep came to me early, and dreams filled the night. I tossed and turned as the dreams became more and more vivid. And then I remember waking to see that somehow the beautiful face had left its frame and was bending over me. Only the face was younger than in the portrait and softer, with great eyes that looked deep into mine. I tossed off the bedclothes and struck a match to light a candle. Where are you? Come back, please. I know you were here. Come back, I won't harm you. But there was only silence, and the cruel eyes of the portrait looking down at me. I sat up the rest of the night, and it was the next day when I came face to face with Marla Cesar, as she stood in her doorway after saying farewell to Father Ramon. Once again I looked into those marvelous eyes, and then she turned quickly and closed the door. I rapped sharply. Senorita, please open the door.
Senor, it is useless.
What is useless?
That we should talk.
But we must.
We cannot.
Cannot? What will stop us?
I will. I know that what you're thinking is impossible.
Then you know what I'm thinking.
Of course.
And you'll turn your back on me? On my love?
I have no choice.
Nonsense. Everyone has a choice.
Except me.
Why do you say that?
I know. Believe me. I know.
All right, tell me why.
Please, senor. It is not permitted to love me.
Who will not permit it?
I will not.
Well, then again, I ask you why.
If you really loved me, you would not ask me.
If you really loved me, you'd tell me.
I did not say I loved you.
But your eyes speak for themselves. You knew we loved from the moment our eyes first met.
Are you not ashamed?
Of my love for you? No, never.
Of breaking the rules under which you came to be a guest in this house? Of using your worldly wisdom to make me betray myself and my family? Are these not shameful, senor?
I only know that I love you and you love me. And between two people who love, there must be trust.
And between us, senor,
I tell you, there can be nothing but a closed door.
As I look at the pages I've already written, I feel now as I felt then, the urge to stop, to seek no more answers. In my heart, I knew that the beautiful creature I loved had a strange mother and a pitiful brother. My heart told me that she was a child of an afflicted house. But all that mattered was that I should make her mine. For 2 days I walked in the woods with her image ever before my eyes. But she didn't appear. Then, on the 3rd day, Martha, my beloved, you came to me.
Yes, I came to you and I shouldn't. And I hate myself for it. I hate myself for my weakness.
Love isn't a weakness.
For me, it is.
And it gives me strength. Strength to ask you to marry me and to come away with me as my wife.
You don't know what you're saying.
I'm saying marry me and come away from this place. Come to my country and my house and let me show you how much I love you and how much I can give to you.
I can't.
Marla, we were drawn together by the miracle of love. It would be a sin to ignore this miracle.
This is madness. Goodbye.
Marla, come back. I won't let you go.
You must.
Never.
Please, don't touch me.
Don't be afraid. Once my arms are around you and our lips have met, you'll see that I'm right. You'll know that we belong together.
Oh, no. No.
Marla, how sweetly the name sounds on my lips. You do love me. Admit it, darling.
You will go away. Today. You will leave the residencia. And you must never return.
Fatalists believe that the threads of our lives are woven for us long before we embark on life's journey, and that it's useless to struggle against our destinies. But for centuries, the stuff of drama has been fashioned from a man's refusal to accept the inevitable, to fight on, no matter what the odds. George Capewell chose to fight, and we'll be back with the terrifying results of that decision in a few moments. To find love, only to lose it, is an age-old story. But usually the rejected lover knows in his heart why he's been rejected. George Capewell sensed that Marla Cesar had refused to marry him out of a nameless but genuine fear, a fear which he himself felt hung heavily over the Cesar household. George Capewell was convinced that if he only could discover the cause of this fear, he could dispel it, and he and Marla would live happily ever after.
As my life and this last will and testament draw near to a close, it becomes ever more difficult for me to find words adequate to describe the anguish and terror I felt more than 40 years ago in the remote and fear-ridden Cesar residencia. I remember crossing the courtyard on my way to my room, trying to dam the raging torrent of my thoughts and seeing the sensuous figure of Senora Cesar dozing contentedly in her favorite spot in the sun. Senora. Senora, I'm sorry to disturb you, but I must talk with you.
Must? Why?
Your daughter has asked me to leave your house.
Why'd you come to me?
I want to know if you want me to go also.
You have done nothing to annoy me. What did you do to annoy her?
I fell in love with her and asked her to marry me.
Malice, a very pretty girl. Very pretty.
I know she loves me, and yet she asked me to leave. She has some reason for wanting me to go away, and, well, it occurred to me that maybe the reason concerns you.
I took care of Marla when she needed me. Now she's a grown woman. She can do as she pleases.
What was it that made those hellish sounds the other night?
Sounds? What sounds?
Well, surely you must remember it. It was the night of the black wind, and the cries and the screams of pain came from the throat of some animal or some human that was undergoing torment. They shook the house.
I heard nothing. But then I sleep very soundly.
She was lying, of course. I reached my room in a black rage and found a note in Marla's handwriting. I took it to the window to read. The words are seared into my brain. It read, "If you have any feeling for me, any love for Marla, go from here today. I beg of you, go." Almost insane with rage, I slammed my fist through the window. The pain and the blood flowing from my arm brought me partially to my senses. I tried to stem the flow of blood, but the cut was too deep. Through the shattered window, I saw the Senora. I ran down the stairs to the courtyard and approached her, holding out my arm. "Senora, as you can see, I've cut myself rather badly. Could you help me stop the bleeding?" "Senora, what are you doing? Senora! For God's sake, stop! Stop it! Help!
Lizzie! Oh, dear God! Get her teeth out of his arm! Come on! Come on! Get her hair! Pull! Pull for the love of God!
I lost consciousness and remember waking up in bed in my room with Marla kneeling by my bedside.
Oh, my love, my love. Dear, precious heart, I should have sent you away long ago, but I didn't have the strength.
Don't cry, Marla. Darling, and don't blame yourself.
I have done as you asked, sister, and brought the carriage in front. Will he be able to travel?
He must, Felipe. You know that.
No. You think that now I'd go away and leave you with...
My mother. Can you sit up?
Of course I can. Oh!
He cannot walk. I will have to carry him.
No, I can't leave you here. It's dangerous.
I have lived here all my life.
Now that there are no longer any secrets between us, you must come with me.
Felipe, he must have a doctor. Take him where there will be no questions asked, and he can be attended to.
Where am I? What place is this? Marla? Where's Marla?
Old sir, easy, my son.
Father Ramon, what are you doing here?
Praying for you, my son.
Yes, but what is this place? How long have I been here?
July in the house of the Tequendama family. In the old days, they belonged to the Cesar estate. They still feel loyalty to the Cesar family. You have been here 3 days.
Yes, but who brought me here?
Felipe bore you, aided by one of the Tequendama sons.
And my wounds? Marla cared for them?
Only at first. Your cuts were too serious, so we sent for your doctor.
Cuts?
You put your hands through a glass window, did you not?
Sir, you know that I'm not asking this question out of idle curiosity. What are the Cesar family? What are they?
Hey, an unfortunate example of a declining race. Once rich and mighty, they are now poor and neglected.
But not by you. You visit Marla often. I've seen you.
Yes. The senorita is well informed.
And her mother? You do not visit her?
No.
Is she insane?
I can only answer that according to my belief. She is not, or was not. Oh, when she was young, she was wild, but she was surely sane.
You know I love Marla.
I know.
Then you will help me see her?
No.
Why not?
Such a meeting will only bring pain to you both.
It could also bring happiness.
How could that come about?
I propose to marry her and take her away from here, from the evil influences that pollute the residencia. This strain, or whatever it is, may live only in the place where it was born. If Marla were to be removed from this place with a man who loved her devotedly, wouldn't there be a chance?
I do not know. But in a matter of this kind, I would trust the judgment of the senorita.
Will you take her a message?
Before I answer that, I must tell you what the people of these parts believe about Marla's father. Marla's father was a good friend of the head of the house you are in now, the Tegendama house. One day he and his friend delivered some packages to the residencia. The friend met Marla's mother, then a young woman, and immediately fell in love. All the villagers knew it and warned him, but he could talk and think of nothing but the woman.
The way I feel about Marla.
Yes, my son, but with a difference. In wintertime there are terrible storms upon the mountain, and the passes become dangerous. On this one night, Francisco Tegendama and his friend found themselves on the pass before the residencia. It was a wild night with snow and wind. And now I use the words of Francisco, who swears that Marla's mother came out upon the gallery with a lamp in her hand and called to them. Francisco says there was death that night on the mountains, but he felt there was worse inside the house.
And did they go in?
Francisco's friend did, but Francisco wouldn't. He says that he even went down on his knees in the snow and begged his friend not to enter, but to no avail.
Well, what happened?
Heaven knows. The man was never seen again.
Will you tell Marla I must see her?
I will, my son. I promise. But still, she may not come.
You both know me. Tell her that unless she comes to me, I will go to her. I will return to the residencia.
It was wrong of you to send me that message with Father Raymond.
I wanted to see you, to tell you that nothing matters. If you will not go away with me, I will stay here with you. I ask nothing. I love you.
Dearest, I know you love me, but listen. I wish with all my heart that I did not have to tell you these things. I prayed, oh, how I prayed that you would leave without seeing me or asking for me. But my prayers were not answered. I must teach you to see me for what I am, for what I may become.
Not you, Marla. I know your beauty not from your face, but from your soul.
Give me your hand. There. I place it against my heart. You feel the very beat of life. It only moves for you. It is yours.
But then why are you...
But it is mine. Think how affected you were by the portrait that hung in your bedroom. You remember that painting.
Yes, every line, every feature.
The woman who sat for it died years ago, and she did evil in her lifetime. Now recall the painting and look closely at me. And what do you see?
I see the beautiful girl I love.
But you also see that my eyes and my hair, the lines of my body, they're exactly the same as the portrait.
But the mouth is different. Your lovely mouth reveals only sweetness. The mouth in the portrait showed cruelty. Forget your family and be my wife.
You ask me to forget my family. Can't you see that no gesture I make, no tone in my voice, nor any glance from my eyes is wholly mine?
Yours and yours alone. It's you I love.
You think I can escape my heritage?
Of course.
And I tell you, my love, that the hands of the dead are in my bosom. They move me. They guide me.
Marla, I love you and not shadows from the past.
Shadows? Shadows bearing the weight of centuries. 800 years ago, my fathers ruled all of this province. They were wise, cunning, and cruel. Their flags led in war. The king called them cousin.
In what you tell me, there's nothing in which to be ashamed, nothing to fear.
There came the change. My ancestors began to go down. Their minds fell asleep. Their passions awoke in gusts. Beauty was still handed down, but no longer guided by humanity. The seed passed on. It was wrapped in flesh. The flesh covered the bones, but they were the bones and the flesh of brutes. And their mind was as the mind of flies.
Oh, you've lived too long with this, too long in that house, too long with the portraits of the books I saw in your study.
You also saw Felipe and my mother. So you have seen for yourself how the wheel has gone backward with my doomed race.
But you overlook one thing, me. My heritage, my blood, my ancestors. I feel they'll be strong enough to...
And if they don't, you ask me to hand down this cursed vessel of humanity, charge it with fresh life as with fresh poison.
We first meet Judge Bailey at a time when his life has become almost insupportable.
And don't eat so fast, Joe. You know what it does to you.
I don't want any more coffee, Ellen.
Why not? What's the matter with it?
Nothing's the matter with it. I just don't want any more.
But you always have 2 cups.
Well, this morning I don't.
Oh. This is the day, isn't it?
This is the day.
I know you've been dreading it.
You can say that again.
Well, now, dear, don't you think that just because this is the day, you should start it off right? Now, relax and enjoy your breakfast and, well, maybe a good brisk walk to the courthouse.
I was planning on walking.
It's a lovely day. Joseph, don't eat so fast. Now, heavens.
I want to get started.
But it's early. You don't want to hang around down there, do you?
No. I don't want to hang around here either.
Why not? Oh, because of him.
Because of him.
I don't think he's even out of bed yet.
Oh, yes, he is. He's moving around.
Well, in that case... But I don't know what you're going to do with your time. Court doesn't begin until 10.
I'll get some coffee.
Oh, it's my heart to have you drink cheap coffee when you could be drinking mine.
I'll do some reading in my chambers.
You're too wrought up to do any reading, I can tell.
Well, I'll do something. Anything's better than being here when Jack's downstairs. I simply cannot go through that one more time. I cannot.
Well, you'd better hurry. I think I hear.
Where's my coat?
It's in the closet. Where else would it be?
Oh, yes.
Now, don't brood.
No, I won't.
You always do the right thing.
Oh, I'm glad you think so.
Bye, dear. Now, take care.
Father! You talk.
I will.
Father! Sneaked off, didn't he?
Now, that's no way to talk about your father, Jack.
Didn't want to face me.
Come now, have your breakfast.
Didn't want to listen to me.
Your father has heard enough out of you, Jack. I shouldn't have to remind you that your father is quite capable of making his decisions without your help. He's done it on his own for a good many years.
This man's a murderer.
I know that, and your father knows that. It's not the first murder trial your father's presided over.
Decided. Is it going to be death or the penitentiary?
Well, I have no idea what he's decided. I don't even know that he has decided. He may very well be thinking it over. That's probably what he's doing right now.
But he must have given you some idea which way he's leaning.
Eat your eggs, Jack, before they get cold.
Hasn't he?
No.
I don't believe you.
I don't like to be talked to that way, Jack. Now eat your eggs.
You mean he hasn't said anything to you about an important case like this?
Well, your father never discusses any of his cases with me, important or unimportant, until they're disposed of.
This case? A man murdering his father?
All I know about it is what I've read in the papers. And the man wasn't his father. He was his adoptive father.
Same thing.
Well, it's not even clear that the man adopted him. He took him from the orphanage at age 14 and put him to work on his farm as he had done with 3 other boys before and did with 2 more after.
Yes, but he raised them, gave them a home, and...
Yes, and he never had to pay a cent to a hired hand. You ever think of that part of it?
Are you trying to say it was all right to bash his head in with a shovel just because he made his kids do a little work?
Of course I'm not saying that it was all right.
You're on his side, aren't you?
Whose side, for heaven's sake?
Father's side.
Your father isn't on any side.
You think the murderer should get away with it?
Jack, now, I refuse to discuss this with you. I absolutely refuse. I don't blame your father for running out of the house.
Well, that's what he did, isn't it? Ran out.
Because he didn't want to listen to another one of your harangues, and I don't want to hear another one either. Now, this is your father's decision. It is part of his job. And it's not a very pleasant part either. So, well, I'll thank you to leave it to him and not to butt in. Now, if you don't want those eggs, hand them over to me. I'll eat them myself.
Take them. I don't want them.
Well, pour yourself some coffee at least.
No, I don't want any.
Where are you going?
Well, first I'm going to get dressed, and then I'm going down to that courthouse.
Jack, don't do that.
I want to hear this decision.
You leave your father alone.
I'm not going near him. How could I? He's unapproachable. How could I do anything to him? He's untouchable. He's the judge. The final word belongs to him.
That's right. And that's as it should be.
I just want to be there to hear him pronounce that final word.
But why, Jack? Why? Why do you care so much?
Because, Mother, this man, this murderer, has got to die. Can't you get that through your head? Has got to die.
Show your passes, please.
I'm Jack Bailey. See you pass, please.
I'm Jack Bailey. Judge Bailey is my father?
Oh, you're the judge's son.
That's what I've been trying to tell you.
Well, in that case,
I'll
have
just go in.
special instructions. You're not to be admitted. He doesn't want you in a courtroom. He left particular instructions to that effect.
Left instructions with who?
With me personally, sir.
Did he say why?
Didn't say and didn't inquire. In this building, a judge's word is law.
Mother.
For heaven's sake, what is it?
He barred me from the courtroom. Can you imagine that?
Yes.
Do you know he was going to do that?
No.
He had no right.
Oh, he had every right. It's his courtroom.
What was he afraid of?
Well, you know perfectly well what he was afraid of, that you'd make a scene. And probably you would have the state you've been in.
I feel very strongly about this. That man should be punished for taking a life.
He will be.
He should give his own life in exchange for the life he took.
Well, you know what the Supreme Court said about
I
that.
don't care what the Supreme Court said. 20 states permit capital punishment, and ours is one of them.
20 states are trying to get around the Supreme Court decision. Now, it remains to be seen.
The very least Father could have done is go on record that he's against the Supreme Court and for the state law.
Well, maybe he will.
He better.
Well, you'd better watch how you talk about your father. And watch your attitude toward him, too.
When will he be home?
I don't know. He didn't say.
The sentence will be in the afternoon paper.
Yes, I imagine so.
What time does that come out?
About noon, something like that.
It's almost 11:30. I'm going out to buy one.
Oh, Jack, for heaven's sake, it's not out yet. Not for half an hour at least. Now, darling, sit down, cool off.
I can't.
Why in the world is this case so important to you? I can't for the life of me figure it out.
Don't you understand? The whole mess we're in, the whole mess the world is in, you did it.
Me? I did it?
No, not you personally. Your generation.
Oh.
The generation of permissiveness. Bleeding hearts, understanding, tolerance, all that bilge. You swallowed it whole. You poisoned the world with all that compassion stuff. You raised me on it.
I never saw anything wrong with the way we raised you.
When I flunked out of college, you sent me to Paris, to art school.
Didn't you like Paris or art school?
Of course I liked it. That's not the point.
Well, what is the point?
I wasn't supposed to flunk out of school.
No, but you did. What were we supposed to do about it?
You were supposed to let me get away with it.
But you'd already gotten away with it. You're back in school now. I don't see that any harm was done.
That's not the point. It's the principle of the thing. Nobody is supposed to get away with anything.
Oh, Jack. Oh, I'd hate to have that principle applied to everything I've done.
I'm going out to see if that afternoon paper's on the stand.
It isn't.
Well, if it isn't, I'll go back to the courthouse. Somebody down there ought to be able to tell me what happened.
Now, Jack? Oh.
Jack, you came home.
May I come in?
Yes, sure.
Well, you want to know what the sentence was?
Of course I want to know.
20 years to life.
You didn't...
I didn't sentence him to death. No, I didn't. Now I'm going upstairs and lie down.
Wait a minute. Wait one little minute.
Jack, please.
You can spare me a minute, can't you?
I suppose I can.
How do you justify what you did?
You mean not sending the man to be killed?
He can get out of jail in 20 years, you know.
If he behaves himself, I know.
He can get out and kill somebody else?
But I don't think he will.
You don't think? You're willing to take a chance because you don't think he will?
Well, what else can I go on but my own judgment?
How do you know he won't kill somebody?
I don't. Any more than I know he won't. Or you won't. Or anybody else won't. Except possibly your mother, and I can't give you any guarantee about her if it comes to that. Now, if you don't mind, I'd like...
You've done a terrible thing.
I don't think so.
And you're going to regret it.
I hope not.
Well, you will. You'll see. When you're responsible for another murder, you're going to be very, very sorry for what you've done.
Jack, please.
If he kills somebody else, you'll be responsible. You'll be the murderer yourself. That don't you?
Jack, stop it. It's all been decided. It's over. Now, there's nothing more to be said or done.
Nothing more to be said or done.
That's right.
Nothing more to be said. Nothing more to be done.
Nothing, dear. So...
We'll see. We'll just wait and see about that.
Arguments between parents and their children are nothing new. Actually, they dominate the years the children are growing up. It is not until the child has left the parent's home and has his own home, produced his own children, that the passion subsides and the arguments turn into discussions. And even then, there smolders beneath the acquired courtesy and the polished tact the ancient hostilities and the basic antagonisms of the earlier years. I'll be back shortly with Act 2. Nearly a month has passed since Judge Joseph Bailey sentenced a confessed murderer to 20 years to life. A month since his son Jack denounced him as worse than irresponsible for not having sent the murderer to his death. Since his wife Helen said to their son, "There's nothing more to be said, nothing more to be done." A month since the boy replied, "Wait and see." Since that day, an unidentifiable mood has permeated the Bailey home. A mood which neither mother, nor father, nor son can break.
You need more butter.
Oh, I can make this do.
No, muffins need plenty of butter.
Helen, why doesn't Jack come down for breakfast anymore?
Oh, really? It's up to him, Joseph. We can't make him.
A month ago, I was avoiding him, and now he's avoiding me.
Well, ever since the sentencing of that man.
He's been different. Don't bother to deny it. He's been completely different.
I wasn't going to deny it, though maybe I wouldn't say completely. He's been different.
I thought by now...
I thought so, too.
I'll be in my study if you want me. I have some briefs to go over and probably take all morning.
Well, I won't want you because I'm finally going to put up those peaches that I bought a week ago, or they'll go bad.
I'll see you around lunchtime.
Yes, dear.
Mother!
Oh! Jack, you startled me.
Sorry.
My hands full of dishes and everything. Don't you sneak up on me when I have my hands full of dishes. Don't ever do that again.
Okay, I won't ever do that again.
And pour yourself some coffee, dear. Oh, and there's muffins, but you'll need butter. I'll bring it.
Mother, sit down a minute.
I want to clear the table.
I want to tell you something. Oh, come on. Put the dishes down.
Oh, dear. Well, all right. What is it?
I've made up my mind about something.
Oh, what's that?
I'm going to see that man.
What man?
That murderer. You know which one.
That man is in jail.
Well, of course he's in jail. Father put him there.
Why do you want to see him?
I want to ask him a few things.
Like what?
Oh, how he feels, walking around alive after he's killed a man, eating and sleeping and enjoying life.
I rather doubt that he's enjoying life.
Well, he's living, isn't he? And the man he killed isn't.
Jack, you realize, don't you, that this man has gotten to be an obsession with you?
Oh, no, it's not the man. It's the fact that he's alive. I want to know if he's feeling any remorse for what he did, if he regrets it, if he feels any sense of guilt at all.
I think you can take it for granted that he feels all those things.
Oh, but how do I know? For sure, unless I ask him.
I'm sure your father won't approve.
I can't help that.
Well, when are you planning to go to see this man?
I thought, now.
Today?
This morning.
Oh, Jack, you've got to think about it.
I've thought about it for weeks.
Jack, please, now, please, don't rush into this. Please, talk to your father or somebody. Don't just go tearing off.
Sorry. I'll be back sometime.
What makes you think they'll even let you in?
Why, I'm the son of the Right Honorable Joseph Bailey. That ought to get me in anywhere, don't you think? Except, of course, into his precious courtroom.
Jack, wait. Let me ask him.
Sorry.
Jack? Joseph?
Yes, Helen?
I had to disturb you, dear.
Oh, that's all right.
Darling, Jack came downstairs right after you came in here.
Well, didn't I just hear him go out?
Yes, and that's why I had to disturb you. You'll never guess where he's gone. He's gone to see that man. You know, the murderer. He's gone down to the jail to talk to him.
Talk to him? About what?
About his feelings, he said. Whether he feels sorry that he did what he did, whether he feels remorse or guilt, all that. Joseph, I tried to stop him, but I really didn't quite realize till the very last minute that he actually meant it. That he meant to go now. He hardly listened to me, and before I knew it, he was out the door.
Don't worry about it, Ellen. They won't let him in.
They won't? Oh, I wonder.
Well, of course they won't.
He seemed to think that being your son, all he had to do was mention your name.
I don't think my name impresses the warden too much.
Oh.
Not in his own bailiwick where he makes the rules.
Well, it's a relief. Another thing that worried me, I didn't think if they did let him in, that the man would be too happy to talk to him. Not if he knew how Jack felt about his being put away instead of being executed.
He might refuse to see him, but I don't think he'd hurt him.
Well, if the warden won't let him in...
He won't.
Well, then I'll let you go back to your reading. And I'll get started on my peaches.
You call me for lunch.
I shall. And a half pint of brandy. Oh, it seems like a lot of brandy. Oh, well.
Mother?
Oh, Jack. You've done it again.
Done what?
Snuck up on me with my hands full. Do you realize I almost dropped a whole cup of your father's best brandy?
Oh, sorry.
I'm making those brandied peaches. Jack, what's the matter? You look pale.
Do I?
Very pale. You look worn out. What is it?
I saw him.
You saw... Whom did you see?
You know, the murderer.
You mean you went to the jail?
I told you I was going.
But they let you in to see him?
There was nothing to it. I walked right into his cell, and I talked to him. And then they let me out, and I came home.
It was that easy?
Of course, nothing to it.
What did you talk to him about?
What I told you. I asked him how he felt.
What did he say about how he felt?
He said he felt fine.
He felt fine?
He didn't feel guilty or remorseful or anything. He said the killing was the only thing in his life he felt good about.
Oh, he couldn't have meant that.
Oh, yes, he did. You should have heard him. He said it was his first manly act. That's what he called it. Manly.
Well, it hardly seems possible.
He said he'd never felt so much like himself. In fact, he said it was the only time he'd felt like himself. His true self, he said.
That's very strange. That's a strange way to talk.
He's of age. A little older, maybe a year or two. He's got brown eyes and brown hair. And he sat there looking at me right in the eye and telling me that the murder was the crowning achievement of his life.
He didn't mean it.
If you heard him, you wouldn't say that. Yes. He meant it all right. He really meant it.
He upset you, didn't he?
It wasn't exactly what I'd hoped he'd say.
Why don't you go upstairs and lie down for a bit? I'll call you when she's ready.
I think I'll do that. Yes, I think I'll do that. Call me for lunch.
I will. Now, get a little rest. You hear me?
Yes, I hear.
Joseph, it's me. I have to talk to you.
Come in, dear.
Joe, they let him in. They let him in. The warden let Jack in to see that man.
He did. Well, I must say I'm very surprised and not at all pleased.
Joe, that's not the worst of it. It's what the man said to Jack.
What did he say?
Why, incredible things. He said that the killing was the only manly act of his life, the only thing he ever felt good about, his crowning achievement.
My word.
Joe, he said it was his first manly act.
Perhaps for him it was.
But Joe, how can you talk like that?
Well, I didn't say I considered it a manly act. I said it's quite possible that he did.
Well, I wish that he hadn't chosen it to say to our son. Jack said that he showed no remorse whatsoever. Can you imagine?
Well, why should he show remorse if he didn't feel any?
Well, I simply don't understand you at all. I really don't.
Well, he was very badly treated by the man he killed.
And that's an excuse for murder? I I declare I'm beginning to see Jack's point. You should have sentenced him to death if that's his attitude. Why, if everybody felt that way, if everybody spent his life getting even with everybody who was unkind...
Not everybody, Helen.
Well, all I know is that Jack is very upset. He came home as though he'd been rocked to his very soul. He was not himself at all.
Where is he now?
Well, I told him to go upstairs and then lie down for a while, and he said he thought he would. Joe, don't be unkind to him. Please.
I won't be unkind.
I know that you've been terribly annoyed with him these past few weeks, keeping after you all the time about the trial, about the sentence, but...
At the moment, I'm a lot more annoyed with the warden at the prison letting Jack talk to that man. I can't imagine what he was thinking of. Look, you go back to your kitchen. I'm going to call the warden and chew him out a little.
All right. And don't forget, when Jack comes downstairs, be kind to him.
Don't worry, I'll be kind.
Good.
Come in. Oh, Jack. Come in.
You're busy.
Oh, no, not at all. I was going to make a phone call, but that can wait. Sit down, son.
I think I'd rather stand up, if you don't mind.
Your mother just told me that you went to the jail.
Yes, to see the man.
And they let you see him?
Of course. I walked right in.
Oh, come now. It's not that easy to see any prisoner, let alone a convicted murderer.
Well, it was for me.
I can't really say that I approve of your going there in the first place. And in the second place, I very strongly disapprove of the warden letting you in. And I'm very unhappy about what the man said to you.
Mother told you?
Yes.
I was going to tell you myself, because I wanted you to see what you've done.
What I've done?
You let a murderer live. If he kills somebody else, it'll be your fault. You turned him loose.
Now, Jack, I didn't turn him loose. The phone.
Now let it ring.
What?
Never mind about the phone. Mother will answer it in the kitchen.
I suppose she will.
You and I have got something more important to take care of.
Now, Jack, that's not a gun you have there, is it?
It's a gun, all right.
Well, put it down. For heaven's sake.
I told you a month ago what a terrible thing you were doing. And you went ahead and did it, Jack.
Joseph, the telephone's
Helen,
you.
be careful.
What is it? Are you all right?
I'm all right.
Jack! Jack! Oh, my Lord, Jack!
I told you. Didn't I tell you?
Joseph, has he gone mad? Joseph, is our son mad?
What is madness? When does the moment arrive when it is wholly evident? Who is to call it madness? And who is to call it revelation? How long may it last? And can it ever go away? Does it hide? Or is it imprisoned? Or is it disguised in a million minor ways? Till the day when it springs into full view. And when it appears, who is to recognize it and call it madness? I'll be back shortly with Act 3. It's a great mistake to think of all young people as radical and all their parents as conservative. The story we are presenting here concerns a judge who chose to spare the life of an acknowledged murderer and his son who passionately asserted that the man should be put to death. So passionate was his conviction that he was driven to threatening his father with a gun. And a few moments ago, we heard shots from the gun held by the judge's son.
Orton Keyes, yeah?
Who?
Judge Bailey.
Well, what?
Yes. Ask him to come right in. Now, what on earth do you suppose he... Oh, come in, Judge. Come on in.
Thank you, Warden.
Will you have a chair?
Thank you. I should have phoned you before barging in like this.
Oh, there's no harm
Warden
done.
Keyes. why, in the name of common sense, did you let my son see that man?
Now, wait a minute, Judge Bailey.
At least you could have called and asked me.
Well, I did call you.
You certainly did not.
I did, and your wife answered the phone. She told me you were working in your study, and she didn't want to disturb you.
What in the world was the idea of letting
I
him...
didn't. Jack never saw the man.
He didn't?
No. He seemed very disturbed when he showed up here. Not normal at all. And he couldn't give me any logical reason why he should be allowed to talk to the man, so of course I didn't give my permission.
No one else could have let him...
No. My word is law here, Judge.
Well, I owe you an apology, Warden Key.
Well, not at all. It's perfectly all right. But, what made you think that Jack did talk to the man? Did he say he had?
Well, he told his mother some story. She told me. I should have checked right away instead of... Well, no matter now. I do apologize, Warden.
You know, Judge Bailey, I might have let him in just because he's your son. I say might have. Except that he was so overwrought. Plus the fact that he had a gun. It was in his pocket, very poorly concealed. We spotted it the minute he walked in. Your son doesn't know too much about guns, I take it.
I didn't even know he had one.
They're easy enough to pick up, unfortunately. Of course, I asked him what he planned to do with it.
What did he say?
Told me it was none of my business, and then he ran out of here. That was when I called you and talked to your wife, and, well, as I told you.
Yes.
And I did call back several times, but we always got a busy signal. I suppose your wife must have left the phone off the hook.
Yes, she must have.
I figured something happened, and she just forgot.
Yeah, that's right. Something happened. She forgot. Warden Keyes, I'm going to ask a favor of you, a great favor. If you feel you can't grant it, please say so, and I'll understand.
Oh, anything I do, Judge Bailey, I will do.
I want to talk to this man.
Well, now, wait a minute.
I know I shouldn't ask, and I wouldn't, except that, well, it's terribly important to me. I won't ask to see him for more than, 5 minutes, perhaps. It shouldn't take more than that.
And I don't know,
It's more important to me than I can probably explain, Warden. I wish I could explain, but at the moment I can't. Perhaps one day, I don't know.
5 minutes.
Not a second longer.
All right, where would you like to talk to him?
Any place at all, in his cell. Look, if you're afraid he'll do me some harm... Oh, is that it? You're afraid he might attack me?
Oh, no. Seeing as you're the man who spared his life,
well,
I don't...
Even so, if you think he's dangerous, I'm willing to chance that. I mean, it's that important to me.
I don't consider him dangerous at all. I think this murder is probably the only crime he'll ever commit.
You mean that?
Sure, it was a crime of passion, pure and simple. I think he'll make trustee within a year.
Really?
Most of our trustees are murderers, didn't you know that?
I never really thought about it.
Oh, not the professional killers or the psychotic ones, but the one-time murderers, where the stress and strain of their particular situation simply overwhelmed them, where the buried hostility suddenly surfaced, and as a rule just as suddenly subsided, never to surface again.
It's interesting.
Well, now, how would you like to see this man right here in my office?
Could I?
5 minutes?
Have my word.
Okay. You know, I'd like to know sometime what you think of him. Personally, I like him. You stay right here. I'll have him brought in.
You know who I am?
I should, don't you think?
Oh, yes, it was a silly thing to say. Look, we only have 5 minutes. I promised the warden. So if you don't mind, I'd like to come straight to the point.
Yes, sure, okay.
I have a son, about your age. He didn't agree with the 20 to life I give you. He thought you should have been given the death penalty. Oh, really? His name is Jack. Jack grew really exercised about it as the trial went on. Very, very vehement. Got so I avoided speaking to him for fear he'd bring it up. I didn't want to argue with him, and I didn't want him to take the chance of his influencing me in the slightest.
I guess you've earned your reputation. I mean, like, you really are a good
I
judge.
actually barred him from the courtroom on the day I handed down my decision. And it made him even more agitated, more hostile. And then came the day, you'd been locked up here about a month, I guess, when he told his mother that he was going to come here to see you.
Yeah, what for?
I don't know precisely. To see how you were reacting to the crime, I guess.
He never saw me.
So the warden just told me. But Jack came home and told his mother that he had seen you. And that you were cool as a cucumber about the whole thing.
Not quite.
That you'd never felt so much like a man as when you killed your father. That it's the only thing you ever felt good about. Where could he have gotten such an idea?
Oh, I couldn't say for sure, but maybe because that's exactly the way I do feel about it.
You mean that?
Yeah, sure.
No remorse? None at all?
Well, I'd rather not be here, of course, and I know I shouldn't have taken a man's life, but like deep inside, deep when I really care to look at the moment, I know that my whole life had been like leading up to the killing. And it wasn't even that killing, the killing of that man, I mean. It was the killing of my own father.
You don't mean you actually...
No, I didn't kill my own father, though I wanted to. I couldn't do it because I was only 4 years old when he took me to the orphanage and left me there. He never said he was coming back for me, but I always believed he would. I went on believing for a long time.
And when this other man took you out of the orphanage...
Oh, I pretended to myself my father had come for me. Of course, the pretense didn't work. Pretenses never do.
I'm going to tell you something that I'd rather you didn't repeat to anyone.
Okay?
I have your word.
You sure you need it? You got it?
The warden wouldn't let Jack see you because... Well, I guess it's against regulations, but besides that, Jack had a gun on him. He came home after the warden had turned him down, and he came into my study where I was working, and he reproached me again for letting you live, and he fired a shot at me. His mother came into the room at that moment, telling me about a phone call, and he turned the gun on himself.
Oh, no.
Mind you, no one knows about this.
Yeah, but I mean, like, it'll come out, won't it? How he died.
He isn't dead. He's wounded. He's in the hospital, but he'll live. Now, can you tell me why he'd have done such a thing? I mean, I realize you can't possibly know. Not really, but I'd like your opinion.
Me? Okay, all right. For what it's worth. I think that, brooding about me, what I've done, your son read my feelings accurately. Now, whether this was thought transference or telepathy or whatever, I don't know too much about those things. But he discovered that this desire to kill the father is a universal wish.
But I always thought my son loved me.
Oh, he does. I'm sure he does. But that doesn't alter the other feeling, now, does it? I mean, it could keep it from, like, surfacing, but it doesn't really alter it. Nothing does. Nothing can.
It's hard for me to accept the fact that my son tried to kill me.
Oh, but he didn't, don't you see? You mustn't think that.
He was standing right close to you, wasn't he, when he fired the shots?
Well, about 6 feet away.
Yeah, and you weren't moving, were you? You weren't trying to stop him?
Well, I was too astonished and perhaps too afraid.
So you were a perfect target, weren't you?
Well, I suppose. Yes, I was.
And yet he missed you completely, didn't he?
Yes.
Well, Judge, anyone who could miss a stationary target at 6 feet, he just didn't want to hit it. So he only succeeded in wounding himself. Am I right?
Thank you. From the bottom of my heart. For all you've said.
No. Thank you, sir. For my life.
Hello, son. How are you?
Coming along okay, I guess.
That's what the doctors tell me.
Father, lying here thinking, trying to think, I can't understand how it all happened.
It's all right.
I was out of my mind. That's the only way I can figure it. Don't you think so?
I think something like that.
It won't ever happen again.
Oh, Jack. We went to see the man in jail, the murderer. Why'd you take a gun with you?
Oh, yes, a gun.
Did you mean to kill him with it?
Oh, no. No.
Did you think you'd do what I hadn't done? Take his life?
No. See, I thought he'd be so remorseful. I thought he'd be eaten up with remorse and guilt and sorrow for what he'd done. I thought he wouldn't want to live. So I thought I'd just hand him the gun and he'd do the rest.
By that, you mean...
I thought he'd kill himself. But I never got to see him. Did I?
No.
Funny. I thought, well, I did see him. And we talked a little bit, and he was arrogant. And he wasn't sorry at all. It was very clear to me at the time. Now I'm not so sure.
Rest, son. It'll all come clear one day, son. Thou shalt not kill. This simple, terse statement is in the book of Exodus. It is not followed by the word except or the word unless or any qualifying phrase. No, it reads plainly, thou shalt not kill. We might ask why the Lord thought it necessary to deliver this stern injunction. Can it be for any other reason but that the impulse to kill lies fermenting silently in every human heart? I'll be back shortly. You're on the open road, rolling free and feeling great about your new Buick Century. Because in published EPA mileage test results, a V6 Buick Century got the best highway mileage of any U.S. midsize car. 24 miles per gallon and 16 in the city. Your Century's comfortable, it's nimble, it's economical, and above all, it's a Buick. Living free.
Hi, I'm Burl Ives. You know, nothing perks up a meal like an exciting side dish. And I'd like to tell you about one your family and your guests are sure to love and keep on loving. It's Uncle Ben's long grain and wild rice. It's a mouth-watering mixture of Uncle Ben's converted brand rice, wild rice, herbs, and seasonings. It's the kind of side dish that can make an ordinary meal a great meal and can keep a great meal from becoming ordinary. In fact, Uncle Ben's long grain and wild rice is so good, they tell me that most everyone who tries it comes back for more. That's because there are no compromises in quality, but that's the way Uncle Ben's does business. So, to make an ordinary meal a great meal, try Uncle Ben's long grain and wild rice. And to make sure you get the quality ingredients and good taste I've told you about, make sure it's Uncle Ben's.
This is Shelley Henry with one of the most crucial and provocative issues of our day, the question of government. Is it adequate for the problems that it has to solve? That's Monday at 2:15.
listeners, I hope we have not saddened you with our account of the darker side of man's nature. If we have, let me leave you with these lovely words from the book of Psalms. Mercy and truth are met together. Righteousness and peace have kissed each other. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. Our cast included William Prince, Augusta Dabney, Christopher Tabori, and Ian Martin. The entire production was under the direction of Hyman Brown. Radio Mystery Theater was sponsored in part by Contact, the 12-hour cold capsule, and Uncle Ben's Long Grain and Wild Rice. This is E.G. Marshall inviting you to return to our Mystery Theater for another adventure in the macabre. Until next time, pleasant dreams.
Tonight's WOR Mystery Theater was also brought to you in part by ShopRite Supermarkets. A lot more for a little less. The preceding program was furnished by the Columbia Broadcasting System.
The CBS Radio Mystery Theater presents... Welcome. I'm E.G. Marshall. Do you like riddles? Of course you do. Give me a good riddle that seems to defy solution, and I'll settle down happily to unravel it like a cat with a ball of twine. And like the cat, I usually succeed in making a tangled mess of it. But untangling a mystery, finding the answer to the riddle is fun. Unless, of course, you happen to be involved in it personally, and your life depends on finding a fast solution, like Rachel James.
Suicide, Lieutenant Forbes. Mr. Carson committed suicide.
No, Mrs. James. He was murdered.
That's impossible.
Why impossible?
Because he was the only one in his room. The windows were locked on the inside, and the door was locked on the inside. If Mr. Carson was murdered, how did the murderer escape?
Frankly, Mrs. James, I don't know.
Well, I do. The answer's obvious. Suicide.
Well, the answer is anything but obvious. Because it was murder.
Our mystery drama, Key to Murder, was written especially for the Mystery Theater by George Lothar and stars Mercedes McCambridge. It is sponsored in part by True Value Hardware Stores. I'll be back shortly with Act One.
The most important tools you buy...
I might as well come right out and say it. I'm no Sherlock Holmes. Are you? Well, whether you are or not, here's your chance to match wits with Police Lieutenant Michael Forbes. Mike to you. Luckily, you have nothing to lose. Mike had everything to lose. The life of the woman he had come to love. The story begins in a certain old four-story brownstone in a certain large city on a certain cold and wintry day. In the rather stuffy Victorian living room, Rachel James and her closest friend, Minerva Hall, are having a much-needed cup of tea.
Another cup, Rachel? Oh, I guess so, Minerva. Might as well enjoy it while I can still afford it.
Oh, come on now. Things aren't that bad. Just because two of your roomers packed up and left.
Mm-hmm. Mrs. Parker's making noises about doing the same thing. I don't know that I want to go on living in a boarding house where there's been a suicide. That's what she told me this morning.
It's always darkest before the dawn, Rachel, and
Minerva, please. This is no time for one of your life can be beautiful proverbs. I'm in a real blockbuster of a bind. You know as well as I do that I've gone through an awful lot since I inherited this rooming house from Aunt Hattie.
I know it hasn't been easy for you.
Easy? What with inflation and taxes and mortgage payments and skyrocketing fuel bills and I don't know what all, I've just barely managed to keep my head above water. And now with 2 boarders gone, 3 rooms empty, counting poor Mr. Carson, I don't know how I'll make ends meet. I just don't know.
One thing you can do is stop worrying. We'll get by somehow. If worse comes to worse, you can always sell the place. And I've got my job at Gibbon Real Estate. Don't look at me like that, Rachel. After all, I am your oldest and closest friend.
Oh, my dear Minerva, let's face that. You just get by as it is on what they pay you as a clerk. And there's... Well, I don't like to mention...
I know. My mother. If it weren't for you footing the bills, I'd never be able to keep her in that sanitarium in Cleveland.
That's another problem to worry about. What happens to her if I go broke?
Well, she is really not your responsibility.
No, but she is. She's your mother. I couldn't let anything happen to her any more than I could let anything happen to you. There's somebody at the door.
Maybe someone who wants to rent a room.
Yes.
Miss James?
Yes.
Lieutenant Mike Forbes, homicide?
Lieutenant, homicide? You mean the police?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, well, won't you come in? It's a terribly cold day, isn't it?
Yeah, cold, windy. I walked over from the precinct station. It's just a couple of blocks. The wind darn near blew this pipe of mine right out of my mouth.
I see you held on to it.
You object to pipe smoking, Miss James? I mean, if you do...
Oh, no, that's, quite all right. Well, now, Lieutenant, I have 1 or 2 rooms I think you might like. There's one on the 4th floor that's very spacious. It overlooks the garden in the back. It's very quiet.
Miss James, I'm not here to rent a room. I'm investigating the death of Harold Carson.
Oh. Will you come into the living room, then? Minerva, this is Lieutenant Forbes of the police. My friend, Miss Minerva Hall.
How do you do?
Undo.
Won't you sit down, Lieutenant?
Oh, thank you.
Well, now, you say you're investigating poor Mr. Carson's suicide?
Yes, ma'am. The fact of the matter is, it wasn't suicide.
Not suicide?
No, ma'am. Harold Carson was murdered.
Murdered? Oh, but that's not possible.
Why isn't it?
Well, you know how he was found, don't you? I mean, don't the police make out reports and things?
Oh, I read the dope sheet all right.
Well, then you know he was found on the floor, but he didn't answer, and then we tried to open the door. But it was locked on the inside. So Min and I had to break it in. And thank heaven she was here, because I'd never have been able to do it alone.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And there he was, the poor man. He was dead. A suicide.
Ma'am, I hate to disagree with you, but Mr. Carson was murdered. It looked like suicide, yes, but it was meant to look like suicide. But the autopsy report from the medical examiner's office states that the old man was first rendered unconscious by a blow to the head, and that death by...
Without pushing the other key out of the lock. We'd have found it on the floor, not in the lock.
Mm-hmm. Well, interesting. Very.
Oh, that match. Put it out.
Just relighting.
No, put out the match. I smell gas. Or I think I do.
Oh, not again. Not again.
You're right. I smell it now.
It seems to be coming from... Yes, it is. It's from upstairs.
All right, here. I'll go first.
Oh, if it's another...
It isn't. It can't be. Lightning never strikes twice in the same...
Oh, men.
Smell is strong, very strong, here on the 3rd floor. Yeah, coming from this room.
Mrs. Parker!
Open up. Open up in there.
Break it in. Break it in.
Mrs. Parker!
Oh, Mrs. Parker! No. Oh, no.
Open the window. Oh.
Let me. Locked from the inside. Door locked on the inside, too.
key in the lock.
Mrs. Parker. Oh, let's get her to the window. Fresh air.
No. Don't bother. He's dead.
But maybe if we can get some air into her lungs.
It won't cure a broken neck.
Broken?
You can see the way it's twisted, Miss Hall. It's broken, all right.
Then she's been murdered, too.
Yes, Miss James. She's been murdered, too.
Hello? Oh, yes. Just a minute. It's for you, Lieutenant.
Oh, thank you, Miss James. You? Well, I've questioned all but one boarder, Inspector Morris. A guy named Whitman. No. I'll stick here. It's just 5 o'clock, and Miss James says he gets home promptly at 5 every day. Yeah, well, okay. I'll see you in your office. You look pretty beat, Miss James. Why don't you go lie down for a while?
No, it isn't rest I need, Lieutenant. It's just a little peace of mind.
Yeah, guess so. 2 murders in your house in less than 36 hours.
And a wrecked livelihood. 2 more boarders, after you questioned them, told me that they were moving out. And nobody is going to move in. You can be sure of that.
Things kind of rough, huh?
Oh, you don't know the half of it.
Mm-hmm. I haven't seen your husband around. You a widow, maybe?
I'm divorced.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you needn't be. He was a drunk. I put up with that for years. I would have gone on, I guess, except that he started to cheat on me. There was another woman. I never found out who she was, but I...
Oh, I guess this is Whitman, huh?
Yes, it is. Mr. Whitman, will you come in here, please?
If it's the...
He's thrown 2 touchdown passes. The last observation you make, Jack, is the key. He hasn't been sacked. And again, I reiterate...
This is Lieutenant Forbes of Homicide. And according to him, Mr. Carson didn't commit suicide. He was murdered. And then just a couple of hours ago...
let me handle this, Miss James. Sit down, Mr. Whitman. John C. Whitman, right?
Yeah, but what happened a couple of hours ago?
Now I'll ask questions.
Well, you don't understand. I'm a newspaper reporter, Daily Globe. Well, not exactly. I want to be a reporter, and I need a break, you know. I keep looking for a break, and if there's been another suicide here, wait, you said murder.
There's been another death, yes. Miss James has filled me in on you pretty much, so just answer me a couple of questions now, huh?
Sure.
You work at the Daily Globe, 8 to 4:30, right?
That's right, 8-hour day, half hour for lunch.
Yeah. Now, Miss James tells me you always leave promptly at 7:30 in the morning, but today you didn't leave until 1 in the afternoon.
Well, sort of off my feet. I called in sick.
Yeah, on the day Mr. Carson met his death, on that day you called in sick too, didn't you?
Well, yeah. What are you getting at, Lieutenant?
Just routine questions, Mr. Whitman. How well do you know Mrs. Parker?
Mrs. Parker? Did something happen to her? Is that what this is all about?
How well did you know her?
Oh, just to say hello to, that's all.
How well did you know Mr. Carson?
Same. Wish I'd known him better. If I'd known him better, I might have written a story my editor would have printed. But he didn't. Into the scrap basket. Says it wasn't good enough.
Mr. Whitman wrote an account of what happened the other day.
Thank you, Miss James. I assumed as much.
You're welcome, Lieutenant Forbes.
Oh, well, thanks, Mr. Whitman.
Yeah, now, about Mrs. Parker. What happened? I could get my teeth into one good story. A scoop, you know? Listen, the city editor would make me a reporter, maybe. So, Mrs. Parker, what happened?
Mrs. James will tell you, or you can read it in the evening edition.
One suspect, Lieutenant. Is that all?
Yes, Inspector. Whitman. 32 years old. Been in newspaper work since he graduated from journalism school. Dying to be a reporter and hasn't made it all these years. He's hot for a scoop.
Well, it struck me he could maybe be making his own scoop.
Well, if he made this one, how come he didn't cash in on it? You checked his city editor. He told you Whitman never said a word about Mrs. Parker's murder.
Yep.
Yeah, well, have a look at this dope sheet.
Harold Carson withdrew his life savings from the bank, $4,300, the day before he was murdered.
Read on, Lieutenant.
Mrs. Parker withdrew her life savings yesterday.
And not a dollar, that money, cold cash, was found in Carson's room or Parker's. You find out who's clever enough to pull this locked door trick. Who was clever enough to get Carson and Parker to withdraw every cent they had in the world. And you'll have your murderer. In fact, I may have your murderer for you.
I give
Rachel James. Mrs. Rachel James.
No, not her. Listen, Inspector, she's one of the nicest women I've ever met.
She's also a convicted felon, Lieutenant.
What?
Back in 1965, she served 6 months for theft.
The look on Lieutenant Mike Forbes' face reveals not only shock, but something else. I don't know what it is myself. Maybe... Well, no. It couldn't be that. He's only known Rachel James a few hours at most. And I've never believed much in love at first sight. I don't know. Maybe we'll find out when I return for Act 2.
You know how...
How does a murderer, or anyone else if it comes to that, get out of a room when all exits, windows and doors, have been locked from inside? Impossible? No. After all, whoever murdered old Harold Carson and Mrs. Parker and tried to make their deaths look like suicide must have accomplished what only seems impossible. Up to this point, I've been unable to figure it out, and perhaps you have too. So let's join Lieutenant Mike Forbes in the living room of that old 4-story brownstone as he tries getting to the bottom of things.
Lieutenant, are you accusing me of murdering Mr. Carson and Mrs. Parker?
No, Mrs. James.
Then why did you come here to ask her if she'd ever been convicted of theft?
Now, Miss Hall, if you don't mind, I'd like to talk with Mrs. James alone.
I do mind. Rachel's my friend, my inseparable friend. Whatever you have to say, you can say in front of me.
Do as he says, and I'll be all right.
Well, if you need me, I won't be far off.
Miss James, I'm sorry if I'm causing you an embarrassment, but 2 murders have been committed in this house, and I've got to get at the truth of things.
I'm ruined, Lieutenant.
That bad?
It couldn't be worse. I'm afraid I'm going to have to sell, whether I want to or not.
Well, at least you get a good price. Land values in this area are high. Gone up, too, since they built that office complex and shopping mall over on 8th. Yeah, but, look, I've got to ask you these questions, Miss James, and it'll be in your best interest to answer them. Now then, you did serve a 6-month sentence for theft, didn't you?
Yes. And I suppose that, makes me a murder suspect right there.
Oh, no. I just have to check out everybody's all. Now, about that theft. Were you guilty?
No.
Was Miss Hall?
No. But it could have looked as if she was. And... Oh. You know. You've known all along.
Well, like I said, I've been checking.
Well, if you knew, why'd you bother to ask?
See how you'd react. You reacted fine.
Well, thank you.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend you. Getting back to the theft, Your friend, Miss Hall, well, her boss had given her $900 in cash to put in the bank. Is that right? Well, never mind. I know it's right. You came to the office to go to lunch with her and waited for her at her desk while she was in the ladies' room. When she came back, she opened her desk drawer to get the envelope with the money in it, and it was gone. Now, you just told me you weren't guilty. If that's so, why'd you plead guilty? Well, why?
To protect me, Lieutenant. Yes, I've been listening outside the door just in case you got too rough with Rachel.
Oh, Min.
You might as well know, Lieutenant. You probably know anyway. I stole that money.
Min!
No, it's got to come out now. My mother came down ill, very ill, and I needed money. When my boss gave me that $900, well, the temptation was too big for me. It was a stupid thing to do, especially since I was sure to be suspected, as I was. But that's when this wonderful woman here stepped forward and said that she'd done it.
When you had to be with your mother, she needed you.
And I was divorced and living alone. Oh, you sacrificed yourself for me, Rachel. And I'll never forget it. Someday I'll get the chance to repay you.
Yeah, well, I'll move along now. And thank you for being so frank and open with me about the theft of that money.
You knew anyway.
No, Miss Hall. I didn't know.
Then as I see it, Lieutenant, you've got 3 suspects now.
3, Inspector?
Jack Whitman, Minerva Hall, Rachel James.
Rachel, Miss James, you can eliminate her. She didn't do it.
Well, you seem awfully sure of that. What makes you so sure?
Well, I just can't imagine her killing anyone. No, she's a very decent sort. Generous, sympathetic. Well, anyhow, that's the picture I get from the boarders I talk to and my own observation.
Attractive to whom?
Meaning what, Inspector?
Well, don't let any interest you may be developing in Rachel James put blinders on you. Now, about this Miss Hall, this close friend of Mrs. James, you say she admitted stealing that $900 and letting Mrs. James take the rap for her?
Yeah, but she's no common thief, Inspector. No, it's the Whitman guy who interests me. I talked to his editor at the Daily Globe. Seems Whitman has been knocking himself out to get to be a reporter for years, but just hasn't got what it takes. He fools himself into thinking all he needs is a break.
And you figure maybe he's making his own breaks with these murders.
That could be.
The more I think about it, Lieutenant, the more it seems to me cracking this case depends on finding the answer to those locked rooms.
I couldn't agree more. Check the doors and the windows. They're solid. No gimmicks. You'll laugh, but I even checked for secret panels. Yeah, well, it's an old brownstone, you know. You never know what you might find, but no dice.
Well, keep after it. There's an answer. Find it.
Yeah. I got a feeling I better find it fast.
Why?
I don't know. Just one of those feelings you get. Feeling that tells me there could be another murder.
Rachel, this is Mr. Gibbon. Arthur Gibbon, my boss. Mr. Gibbon, Rachel James.
It's a pleasure, Miss James.
Oh, won't you sit down, Mr. Gibbon?
Thank you. Well, Miss Hall has told me of your situation here. Says that you talked to her about selling your house, and as I understand it, 2 murders have been committed in this house. Most of your boarders have moved out because of them, and, well, the house has gotten itself a bad name. That's unfortunate. It's most unfortunate. Brings its value down, you know.
Yes, I guess so.
Tell me, Miss James, any idea what your house is worth?
Well, no, not really. I was thinking you might make me an offer.
Well, yes, I could.
Under the circumstances, the best I can do, the very best, would be $50,000.
Oh. You're not serious, Mr. Gibbons.
I'm afraid I am.
But the land alone is worth more than that. Much more.
Yes, but the bad name...
Mr. Gibbons, the house has a bad name so far as renting rooms to boarders is concerned. But if you are the businessman Minerva's always told me you are, you wouldn't be buying the house. You'd be buying the land to tear the house down and put up an office building or something.
Well, yes, that's true enough. But, well, the land isn't as valuable as I gather you think it is. And as I understand it, you have no option but to sell.
Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Gibbon, but your offer is much too low. I guess the thing for me to do is to, get bids or whatever they're called on the property and, take the highest.
It's your house, your land, you can do as you wish. But I ought to tell you, you're making a mistake. As I said, land values are down. So if you change your mind, Mrs. James, you let me know, huh? My offer will still stand. No, that's all right, Minerva. I'll see myself out. Oh, you won't forget about the deeds.
The deeds?
Yeah, the ones I want to work on tonight.
Yeah.
I'll see you in the office then at 7.
At 7. I'll be there.
Goodbye, Miss James.
I could be wrong, Rachel, but I don't know. $50,000 seems like a good offer to me. No, you could be right. But I'll shop around. No.
There's no other way, man.
Then there's no other way, Art, and the hell with it.
Well, you listen to me, baby.
Oh, no, Art, no. I've gone as far as I'm going to go.
This is no time to chicken out.
I never bargained for killing Rachel.
I didn't either. But how was I to know she isn't the naive pushover you told me she was?
Oh, it's that police lieutenant Forbes.
What do you mean?
Well, there's a change in Rachel. A subtle change. I noticed it right after she met Forbes.
Well, I still don't get the change.
Neither do I. All I know is there's a man in her life again. For the first time in years.
Well, all right, so there's a change in her. There's $1 million
No,
riding
I
on
cannot kill Rachel. Carson and Parker, yes, they meant nothing to me, nothing. I even conned them into taking their life savings out of the bank, suckers. But to kill Rachel, no, Art, no, I can't do it.
You'll do it. You've got to.
I won't.
You were willing enough to wreck a boarding house business. Willing enough so I could move in, grab that property for 10 cents on the dollar.
Taking her money is one thing. Taking her life. No, Art, no. I guess there's some little spark of decency left in me.
Decency? You can talk about decency? Conning her all these years, sucking her dry like those monthly handouts to keep your dear mama in the sanitarium. Your dear mama who died years ago.
Money's one thing.
Money's everything. But Alex might just as well be dead. Now you listen. I didn't set this whole thing up. I didn't explain the locked door trick and everything.
A locked door trick that didn't work. The cops found out it was murder, not suicide.
Thanks to you, not me. If you'd suffocated Carson and Parker like I told you...
I couldn't do it. It was too horrible that way.
Okay. So you bashed one on the skull and broke the neck of the other? Accidentally. Deliberately. You did it. And now you do it, Rachel James. I don't care either. Do it.
No. What are you doing?
Calling police.
What for?
To tip them off on how Carson was murdered. And Parker.
No. You're as guilty as I am.
Ah, but not as involved. In fact, I'm not involved at all, man. I've seen to that.
Give me that phone. Filthy swine.
Tonight, men. Killer. Tonight.
Well, a spark of decency may still flicker in Minerva Hall's soul, but clearly it's been thoroughly quenched by Mr. Arthur Gibbons. Or has it? We'll see. We'll also see how someone can walk out of a room locked on the inside when I return for Act 3.
This is WBBM Chicago.
A strange and baffling thing, human emotion. Even the most skilled psychiatrists, I'm told, have trouble unraveling the tangled skeins of motivation which drive us to do one thing or another. I'm thinking of Minerva Hall, who, though she murdered Mr. Carson and Mrs. Parker, is repelled by the prospect of murdering Rachel James. Makes sense, I guess.